There is an epidemic of mass murder being committed by a virtual army of unidentified assassins. It seems to be a sudden, general explosion of mass homicide. Consistent reports from witnesses to the effect that people who acted as though they were in a kind of trance were killing and eating their victims prompted authorities to examine the bodies of some of the victims. Medical authorities in Cumberland have concluded that in all cases, the killers are eating the flesh of the people they murdered.
Incredible as they seem, are not the results of mass hysteria. First eyewitness accounts of this grisly development came from people who were understandably frightened and almost incoherent. Officials and newsmen at first discounted their eyewitness descriptions as being beyond belief. However, reports persisted. Medical examinations of some of the victims bore out the fact that they had been partially devoured. I think we have some late word just arriving, and I'll interrupt to bring this to you. This is the latest disclosure in a report from National Civil Defense Headquarters in Washington. It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder. A widespread investigation of reports from funeral homes, morgues, and hospitals has concluded that the unburied dead are coming back to life and seeking human victims. It's hard for us here to believe what we're reporting to you, but it does seem to be a fact. When this emergency first began, radio and television was advising people to stay inside, behind locked doors for safety. Well, that situation has now changed. We're able to report a definite course of action. Civil defense machinery has been organized to provide rescue stations with food, shelter, medical treatment, and protection by armed National Guardsmen. Stay tuned to the broadcasting stations in your local area for this list of rescue stations. This list will be repeated throughout our news coverage. Look for the name of the rescue station nearest you and make your way to that location as soon as possible.
No longer seek occupancy in private residences, no matter how safe or well protected they may be.
They use maybe 5% of the food available in the human body.
The kind of thing.
With that small amount, the body is usually intact enough to be mobile when it revives.
What are you saying? I mean, you science is...
Dummies!
You're suggesting...
Dummies! Dummies!
Excuse me. Listen, quiet.
One wonders whether it's worth saving. Why don't we drop bombs in all the big cities?
You're probably serious.
I'm deadly serious. What are the choices? They won't run out of food, young lady. That's the problem, you see. And they won't run out of food while we're still alive.
We can lift you out to safety. Please answer my call if you can hear me.
We've got to remain logical. We've got to. There's no choice. It has to be. It's that or the end.
Attention all shoppers. Attention all shoppers.
One-stop shopping. Everything you need right at your fingertips. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs. We got it all. Why pay more when the sales are a-boppin' right here? shop.alpharomero.store.
Hey, it's Greg Nicotero. You are, or if you're not, should be watching Alpha Romero on YouTube.
And you are watching Alpha Romero on YouTube. What's going on, everybody? Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. Happy Sunday to the rest of you fellas and ladies without babies. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you had a good Mother's Day with your mommies and your baby mamas and your mamas mamas and your baby's mamas. But yeah, hope everybody is doing well. Here we go. All right, give me 1 second here. Try something here. Talk amongst yourselves. Tonight, got a little bit of news to cover. Let me go. Sorry, I'm still trying to work out the kinks here. Okay, I'm back. Maybe this will work, maybe it won't. But we shall see. How's everybody doing out there? Tonight we're going to be talking about mothers in the Romero universe. Motherhood. And the various characters in Romero's films, the various mothers in Romero's films. We'll look at them, talk about them, discuss them, and the way that Romero portrays motherhood in his films. I think it's going to be very interesting because you got, mothers to be, older moms, younger moms, mothers dealing, with the end of the world. So it should be fun. Should be interesting. Like I said, hopefully I literally tested this internet twice this week and had no issues until we go live here tonight. So hopefully it clears up, but okay. And we got some news to discuss as well, so we'll talk about that as well. Let me mark something off here as we get started. It's already been covered. Let's see what we're doing. Let's see who all's in the chat tonight. Let's see. Starting here with the man himself, Mr. Synth Addict. What's going on, Synth? Says, hey there, still stuck in a mall waiting for my damn girlfriend. Zombies have a better sense of time. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to worry about zombies showing up at the mall on time. Seems like that's kind of where you want to go, according to Dawn of the Dead and Romero. Good to see you, my man. Hope you survive your mall outing and your girlfriend picks you up sooner rather than later. Got the man, Matt Landrum's in the house. What's going on, Matt? Hey, all. Hope all is well. Hope you're doing well, sir. Robert's in the house. Hello, all. And Mike. Let me try something here real quick before we get too deep into the shit, as they say. Let's go here. Let's do this. Let me see if this will help things. Because I've tried, I literally have it hardwired into my computer right now, the Ethernet cable going from the router to the computer. Usually that helps, but it hasn't been lately. There we go. I got a Wi-Fi booster as well. That didn't do much. So now I'm trying to clear out browsing history, cookies, all this other shit that I've read up on to try to help matters. But oh, we'll see. We'll see. This is already pissing me off, guys. I'm gonna lose my mind tonight, guys. I'm telling you. I don't know what else a man has to do. But we'll keep rolling here. We'll keep rolling. What's up, Bonnie? Happy Mother's Day to you, Bonnie. Bonnie Bailey. Good evening, everyone. Good to see Bonnie as always. Ed, Trader Music and Entertainment. What's going on, Ed? Hope you're doing well. We got Jeff. Down is up. Hello from New York City. Well, hello from Indiana. Hope you're doing well, my man. Chintz 2D. What's going on, man? Yo, I finally caught a live show. Well, I appreciate you stopping in, man. Glad you finally caught one. Hopefully the connection here will work out. I felt really bad last week when I had Jace on because I was like half so distracted by my technical issues here that I felt I was like half trying to focus on like multiple things, and I'm glad I had Jace on to kind of pick up the slack in spots. But that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed talking to Jace. We talked over 3 hours last week, so that was really cool, and he saw just a small portion of his amazing collection, so that was really cool. If you guys haven't checked that out, go back, check out last week's stream. Again, sorry about the technical issues, but very cool. I'm glad you were able to catch it, man. Good to see you. We got TCCK Gaming is in the house. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to you as well. If you're a mother, I don't know. I doubt you are, but good to see you, my man. What's it's saying? Now you have to release what? What are we releasing here? What are you in charge of, Chintz? John Vulo, what's going on, man? Here, but I'm oddly tired, so I don't know how long I'll last. No worries, my man. Hey, I like your new what would that be? Your thumbnail there for your channel. That's pretty cool. Pretty funny. But always good to have you in here, my man. Jeff, send to all the moms out there. Hope you had a happy day and very best. Absolutely. I love this. Well, I love you. Yeah. And get your free hard candy. I always loved that because that's Christine Romero that doing that voiceover, and it's like I always thought it was like some like I never put that together for like the longest time after I first saw it that was her, because I was aware of her from like Martin and the documentaries on Dawn and stuff like that. But when you hear it, she's kind of putting on like a Midwestern type of mom voice, where it's like, get your bag of hard candies free to take home to the kiddies or enjoy your shelf. So hurry and do your shopping. Always enjoy that. As soon as the show is over. Okay, interesting. I'll curious to what you're going to be releasing. Stugas, what's going on, man? Stugas Dive is in the house. Howdy, dudes. Howdy, Stugas. Larry's in the house. What's going on, man? The mall is the safest place. Yeah, and you actually dropped, I saw it earlier on Facebook, and I read through it really quickly, and I'll have to go back and kind of dig into what you found, but apparently you found like what all has been bought in terms of the property of the Monroeville Mall, the storefronts, and because there was kind of a question there, like, do they own all of it? Because there's the main mall, you have your anchor stores like Macy's and all that, J.C. Penney's and whatnot. And then you also have the stuff on the outside, which is like the Firestone place, which is there and still, people pretty much probably remember seeing it in the movie itself. You can see it when the bikers are coming down. I mean, it's pretty visible in the film. But all the, the little shopping area outside there where I think there's like a guitar center or, and there's a hardware store where me and Will went and bought a pair of bolt cutters for various reasons. But yeah, apparently you've pretty much found that the people, Walmart has pretty much purchased everything. Like they own, all of the mall. So anything is possible. Like there's very little of that area that they do not own. So that was kind of a, we all kind of assumed that was the case. But just knowing for sure is kind of a bummer, But again, it's kind of what we all assumed. But good to see you, my man. Jeff says, Michael, I love the use of the picture with Fran in front of the maternity store. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I was kind of wondering what to do for Mother's Day because I knew Mother's Day was today, and I was like, I'll do something. And I was like, it'd be cool to kind of look at the different mother, the characters in Romero's films that were mothers or expecting. You had Fran and Judith Ridley, and there's always Vanilla. The expecting mothers. And then you have, of course, Helen Cooper is like the mother of mothers in Romero, and just kind of looking at the way Romero kind of portrays motherhood throughout his films and how it evolved over time. The older he got, once he started having children, and I don't know. I just think it'd be just kind of an interesting little thing to talk about tonight for Mother's Day, just to kind of look at those various characters. And I went back and revisited Monkey Shines and Dark Half for the first time in a little bit this weekend. because of course you got Joyce Van Patten in Monkey Shines, who's playing Dorothy Mann, the mother of Alan in that film, which she's one type of mother. And then you got Amy Madigan in The Dark Half, who's playing another type of mother, who's trying to deal with two sets of twins basically, and losing her mind. So yeah, I went back and revisited both of those films, and I gotta say, I mean, I like them. They're both good films. Like they're both really, they're just not, like they're not Romero in the way that I like Romero's. Like it's a different style, but it's definitely Romero doing like a mainstream. That was like his mainstream era, where he's like, I can go do a big, like a film with a larger budget and a bigger crew, and they're very well made films, and they're they're very entertaining, and but I can definitely see like why they weren't as successful as George probably would have hoped at the time, and the various reasons why that was the case, especially with The Dark Half. I mean, that was delayed for like 2 years after it was done filming, because Orion was going out of business. Like they went bankrupt, and they had to go back and reshoot the ending. They had to do reshoot on the ending of Monkey Shines as well. But again, very, very good films, and I enjoy both of them. So I'm looking forward to talking about both of those characters tonight, because they're two very different type of characters. Yes, I agree, Jeff. Let's get up on that roof. Let's do it. You always like the way Galen said roof, and which I guess some people do say rough, but I've always said roof. It's roof. But some people do say rough, but let's get up to the roof. Since his friend smoking while pregnant, great mom. Yeah, I mean, we can discuss that, But I mean, I guess, the world's over. Like, the world's ending. It's chaos all around you, and I doubt you're really, I mean, just, if the baby gets born at all is a miracle. So I don't think Fran's too worried about, the cigarette smoke affecting the child's development, I don't know. But I think that kind of, and it's funny because it kind of shows what kind of mother that Francine Parker, or, even Galen Ross as a person. I don't think Galen has any kids. I could be mistaken, but I don't feel like she does, because I don't get that vibe for her, like when you meet her. She doesn't have that like motherly vibe, in my opinion. Like when you meet her, she seems more like the cool aunt. You know what I mean? Like she's just kind of like, just kind of like in the movie. She's just kind of one of the boys, But you don't get, because like sometimes you meet some of these people and you get like Lori Cardille, a perfect example. You get total motherly vibes from Lori. Like when you talk to Lori at a convention, she's just like, you feel like you just want to hug her, because you're just like, oh, Lori. But Galen's just kind of like, hey, what's up? She's cool aunt, cool aunt vibes from Galen Ross. Yeah, that's right, Ed. It was the 70s. Everybody was smoking all the time back then, even past the 70s. Into the 80s. Even when I was younger, like I said, I swear, like I grew up around nothing but smoking when I was growing up. Yeah. That's right, Jeff. We can't leave those guys down there. They seem to be doing fine, but they didn't know that. They just heard gunshots and they thought all hell was breaking loose. What's up, my lunatic 99? I hope I'm saying that right, but either way, good to see you again. Glad to have you in here. Since Mrs. Cooper was rewarded for her mothering, yeah, and I feel like that's a really interesting one, because you could tell that Helen Cooper was a good mother to her daughter, and really cared and wanted to protect her daughter. But at the end, it literally bit her in the ass, that type of thing. But yeah, we'll discuss it. I'm gonna kind of go through chronologically and just look at the different characters, and I got some different theories and some thoughts, and we'll get to that here. After we do a little bit of the catching up on some of the news here lately. There's Rick, the North Going Llama. What's going on, Rick? Hello, all. Happy Mother's Day, everybody. Good to see you, Rick. You had a great day. Mr. Cooper was a great mother. Yeah, he was a mother, all right. You could say that. Yeah, that's a good point, Synth. Dr. Logan clearly had mother issues. I never really thought of it that way, but yeah, you could definitely, I mean, just on the audio recording on the tape, you can definitely, it's definitely some Norman Bates type shit going on there. But he was kind of, if you think about Bub as the baby, because that's the way kind of Howard Sherman played him in Day of the Dead as kind of a little baby. Dr. Logan kind of was his mommy, and he kind of felt that way about him, I think. So yeah, I guess we could kind of celebrate Dr. Logan as, Bub's mommy in Day of the Dead. So I guess we could include, Dr. Logan in there. Zombie Historian, what's going on, man? Checking in from the last rescue station in Florida. Well, hang on, man, because all the shopping malls are closed, and we're getting nothing left out there. So hang on as long as you can. But always good to see you, my man. John says, I just uploaded it 10 minutes ago. The old pic was from a show I played 15 years ago. A friend of mine drew that 5 years ago and loved it, so I thought it would be a good update. I dig it, man. I dig it. That's pretty cool. Kind of reminds me, that's kind of how I used to draw, like, that style. Like, when I was a kid, like, I was obsessed with wrestling. And you would appreciate this, John. I was obsessed with wrestling to the point where I knew every wrestler, like, their weight, where they were from, what their finishing move was, and I would sit at school, instead of doing my schoolwork, I would just sit and draw these wrestlers, and then at the bottom I'd write, Razor Ramon, 270 pounds from Miami, Florida, the Razor's Edge, I would just kind of, and I would do that for every single fucking wrestler, every single one, Yokozuna, Bam Bam Bigelow, and they would look just kind of like that, very, very simplistic, but like you would see, like, with Bam Bam Bigelow, you could draw little flames on his suit and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of what it reminds me of. Not to insult the artist who did yours and say, oh, you draw like an elementary school kid, but that's pretty much how I still draw, so I can't say anything. I'm not a very good artist in that aspect at all. Chin said that mom voice that played through the mall intercom was the typical aunt voice from the 70s and 80s. Yeah. Like I said, it's very Midwestern. Like, it kind of feels like a little Fargo-ish. A little Frances McDormand in Fargo. And Chin said, do you think Walmart will destroy the mall for a supercenter? I think so. I mean, Walmart's not in the business of shopping malls. Unless they're doing something completely different. But the thing is, in Monroeville, there isn't a Walmart in Monroeville. Oddly, I always kind of thought that was kind of weird. Like the first time being there, I was like, oh, there's no Walmart here. That's kind of interesting. And apparently that Walmart's been looking at that mall for quite some time, kind of waiting for it to go up, which is why as soon as the mall went up for sale, it was pretty much sold that day. They had an agreement in place that day. Walmart had kind of been, waiting for the time for that to go up for sale. So I'm pretty sure, like I said, best case scenario, I think we talked about this last week with Jace, best case scenario is that they still keep part of the mall maybe, and maybe upgrade that a little bit and kind of have Walmart as kind of one of the anchors or something like that. But outside of that, I mean, I it's not looking too good. I'll just say that. Like, it doesn't seem, I don't see a situation where they keep that mall as it is. I just don't see that that as an option at this point, unfortunately. Jen says, I haven't seen Monkey Shine since I was in grade school. It's one that I don't go back to a whole lot. Like I said, I watch it maybe once a year. I'll pop it in, give it another watch. And it's funny because when I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, this is actually really good. Like, I actually really enjoy this. I like the dialogue and the characters, and there's really good performances, some really good actors in it. Jason Begay is really good in it. I mean, he does a really good job of playing, a quadriplegic, which is kind of a tough role for an actor to play, where literally everything, all your emotions, it's just all facial and head movement, where you can't really, emote with your arms, legs, whatever, But it's always, I always watch it and I always come away with it like, oh, that I really kind of dug that. Like, that's a pretty good horror film. But it's not one that I'm ever just like, oh, I gotta, I just gotta go back to it all the time. And after a while, I'm just kind of like, I don't know. It just doesn't stick into my head quite like most of Romero's other films. And the same with The Dark Half. Which again is another film that I watch maybe once a year and always come away with it like, oh, that was really well done. I really like the other than the ending. I'm not. I think the last, especially that CGI at the end where the birds are carrying George Stark into the moon, which George has always talked about how fucking awful that looks. And yeah, I mean it's early '90s CGI, so I mean, and it ain't Terminator 2, so I mean it looks pretty damn bad. But yeah, both are well-made films, but not my favorite by far. Since as I extracted that Sweet Tooth announcement and cleaned it up for my Dawn Sounds pack, I uploaded it to Larry's Facebook Living Dead Weekend page. Even balanced the audio so you can hear more of the announcement. Very cool, very cool. That's actually part of a song called George Romero, actually, if you guys have ever heard it. The song actually begins like that. John says, Jack's Wife might be the best film to talk about. Interesting note, I think Jan White is in every scene except the scene when her husband is in the car with his coworker. It's a lot of acting. Yeah, that's true. I've never really thought of it that way, but I think you're right about that, because there isn't really a part of that movie that goes and follows a different character. Everything is kind of always through Jan White's performance, the Joan Mitchell character performance, or her story, her that's unfolding. Yeah, that really is. I never really thought of it that way, but you're totally right about that. Yeah, Bogey's mom was quite upset in Monkey Shine. Yeah, Bogey's mom was actually the one that did voiceover in Dawn of the Dead for the Attention All Shoppers. It's funny enough. Mai says, good point. I'd be far more worried about giving birth in a world where the living dead are roaming in huge droves. Yeah, I mean, I think that's your biggest worry. And the idea that, that you would carry a baby to term in 9 months. If you're able to do that and you're able to survive that long, enough to carry the baby full term, yeah, I think you can have a cigarette or two, and it's just gonna toughen that baby up, prepare it for the world that it's being born into. And could you imagine that? Bringing I hear people all the time, it's like, I don't want to bring another human into this world, this crazy world. Well, imagine that world that you'd be bringing it into. You killed my Bogey. And Christine, like her role in that, it's funny the progression, like in Martin when you first meet Christine as Christina, because I think that was kind of her first film role. When you first see her in that, she's charming and sweet and all that. But then by the time you get to ladies, George has pretty much written her in Monkey Shines, Two Evil Eyes. She's a nurse. She's kind of the nanny in The Dark Half, and they all three roles. She just always kind of plays the same type of old, kind of a bitch character in all of those. So yeah, I don't know what that says about where their relationship was at that time, or where George's head was at the time, but awesome. That's good to know. Also, yes, you are pronouncing it correctly. Well, I try to do you guys justice. Robert will attest to that. I try. I'm not always successful, but I do try. Since says fetal cigarette exposure is really irresponsible for most of the decade, we all know it's bad. But I don't think they knew it was bad back then. I like people back then, like, I remember you'd see like old ads where it'd be like, oh, smoking's good for your health because it's like a stress relief type of thing, and people would, at least that's the way it was promoted and advertised back then. John says, wow, that's impressive memory. Dude, I can name, and this is some super nerdy shit, but I can name because it was my era, kind of. I can name every WWF champion from Bob Backlund all the way to like the early 2000s. After the early 2000s, it was hot potatoed around so much that it all kind of blurred together after a while. But I can name every champion, who they lost it to, and all that, just off the top of my head. And Bob Backlund loses it to the Iron Sheik. Iron Sheik loses it to Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan loses it to Andre the Giant, to Ted DiBiase, and then it gets vacated. Then Savage the title. Savage loses it to Hogan. Hogan loses it to Warrior. Warrior loses it to Sergeant Slaughter. Slaughter loses it to Hogan. Hogan loses it to Flair. No, Hogan loses it to Taker, who then it gets vacated. Then Flair wins it. Flair loses it to Savage. Savage loses it to Flair. Flair loses it to Hart. I can go on and on. I was a huge wrestling fan when I was younger, believe it or not. But it was easier back then because it wasn't, hot potatoed around all the time. Like I said, by the time the 2000s rolled around, it was just like, oh, you're champion this week and you're champion the next week. And then it's just like, it's like every pay-per-view, the title would change. So, or it's just like Ben wrong. So was Dr. Logan. Yeah. I mean, Logan he was crazy, but he was kind of on to something that, nobody else would have really been on to. But I don't know if he was, I don't know if, because he did kind of domesticate a zombie, he did domesticate Bub a little bit there. So, I mean, imagine, I don't know how you would have had the manpower or, the ability to do that in massive numbers. It would take so much time because who knows how long he had been working with Bub at that time to kind of get him to that point. Now, imagine trying to do that to hundreds, because I don't think you'd have to do it to all of them, but if you train enough of them, which I think George was going for in that original script, if you train enough of them to give them weapons and send them out into the wild to go bring in supplies and food, or hell, just take them out and just send them out, go kill as many as you can, and then come back and we'll do it again tomorrow and until we just start to kind of, swing things in our favor. Maybe you could do that. I don't know, but I don't. It's like that would have been something that they would have hopefully figured out at the beginning before it was too late. But again, just like in Day of the Dead, nobody could get along, and humans fight amongst each other, and they all got different ideas concerning what they want out of life. So nobody, there was no, no cooperation there whatsoever. So it would never work. Let's see, where were they at? John says, oh no, she wasn't a professional. She was just randomly drawing people from work. She did that from memory, and I wasn't even wearing a nightshirt. It was emblematic of my Romero fandom. Yeah, that says something when that's just kind of your style at that point, which I pretty much everything I wear is Romero related, which speaking of, I got a new Martin shirt, which is available right now at shop.alpharomero.store. Looks pretty good. I'm pretty satisfied. Here, I'll show you a good look at it there. It's pretty good. I always love that razor blade made in the USA thing and what it kind of symbolizes in terms of the film. Like I've said before, I want to get that tattooed somewhere at some point, but just because I think it's cool. Because it's cool. Robert says, my mom smoked when she was pregnant with me. Because of it, I was a preemie. I had less than 10% chance of living. Well, you're a miracle, my man. You're a living miracle. Yeah, I don't, like my mom didn't. My mom's never smoked. She's kind of one of the only adults that I've ever grew up around that didn't. Like my mom, my mamaw, my papaw, but like my granny, my papa, like grandparents, aunts, uncles, it was always, my dad smoked all the time. It was just so common. And then back then you had smoking sections in restaurants, and it was just not a big thing. But it's weird to think now because I smoke now, but when I smoke, I can always kind of smell it on me afterwards. I'm like, God, I stink. And I'm just like, oh shit, sorry. I'm just like, oh man, I can smell it, But back then, it was just I never noticed it or really thought about it because it was just kind of part of the atmosphere. I don't know. It says, if it's not on your list, remember that Sarah is the mother of all nations. That's right. I did think about that. I didn't put it on the list. But yeah, biblically, Sarah is it kind of translate to mother of all nations metaphoric discussion there. Absolutely. And that is kind of, I want to say that that's what George was probably going for in naming that character Sarah. She was kind of the last bastion of hope to kind of repopulate the earth after that, and she was going to kind of, you know, literally be the mother of a new nation on an island somewhere. But yeah, good point. Good point. Justin, what's going on, man? Justin Moreno is in the house. Yo, Alpha Omega. I'm not the Omega, just the Alpha Romero. But what's going on, man? Alpha Omega. I don't even know what that means. Like Alpha Romero to me, like when I came up with that name, like everybody's like, "Oh, what does that mean?" You know, it sounds cool, but what does it mean? It's like, are you the biggest Romero fan of them all? And I'm just like, yeah, I'm a big Romero fan, but I just thought it sounded cool when I was trying to come up with a name for a YouTube channel, because the car Alfa Romeo. Every time I see Alfa Romeo somewhere, like the car, I'm just like, my mind, because I'm such a Romero fan, instantly thinks of Alfa Romero. Alfa Romero. Alfa Romero. It's easy, so it just kind of rolled off the tongue. And you say you have a badass porn stash on me. Well, thank you. It's the old flavor saver, you know what I mean? Yeah, I figure everybody on YouTube has beards these days. Everybody's got a goddamn beard. Like, that's all I see is beards. So I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna try to bring back the stash. And my buddy Will had the stash going first, and one of the first times I had him on the stream, just as a goof, because I always joked when I was like, oh, I'm totally gonna do the stash. I'm totally gonna do the stash. And when he came on, I had the stash, and I was just like, you know, it's different, something different, because I just had a beard for long. If you go back and watch the old streams, it was always had a beard. But I was like, I'm just going to change it up, do something new. But I always had a beard for years and years and years, and it was just kind of like, and plus, there's quite a few grays starting to show in, so I was like, let me get rid of these grays. Let me just stick with the stash. Hey, what's up? Revival House Podcast. What's going on? Yes, I will be on the Revival House Podcast this Wednesday for a lot of fan commentary of one of my all-time favorite movies, Martin. So I'm really looking forward to that. You guys make sure to head on over, check that out on Wednesday night. It's going to be 8 Wednesday. That's right. Shit, everything just jumped on me all of a sudden. Oh, there we go. What's going on, guys? It says, we are looking forward to Martin commentary Wednesday. I'm calling a meeting for 8 o'clock Wednesday night. I want everybody present. Everybody, lady. Including Dr. Frankenstein, including your boyfriend. Well, yes, sir. Fuck you, sir, as the mother of all nations once famously quoted. But yes, I will be there. I hope to see everybody there as well. It's gonna be good, and I love it. Like I told those guys when they asked, I was like, dude, any chance I get to talk about Martin, like I'm all there. Like that's, like I've said before, like that's probably my second favorite film ever. Not just Romero film, but just favorite film. Like I love Martin. I've often said, like, if I were to make a film, like I want to make, like, Martin would be the type of horror film that I would make. But yeah, looking forward to that. I'll see you guys there for sure. John says, I think they knew the dangers. My mom stopped smoking when she had me in '83. Yeah, they probably did. I mean, it's pretty common sense, but again, like I was just watching, which this is, you know, like I'm, you know, south, you know, from this, you know, southern part of America, you know. But I was watching something the other day. It was like a clip of a news story from the 80s where a town had just outlawed drinking and driving, and then you get all the locals there. It's like, well, God, what kind of world are we living in now in this country? You know, where you can't even, you know, put in a hard day's work 10, 11, 12-hour day, and then have a couple on your way home. Like, what is that? And then it shows this woman who's sitting in this truck with a baby just sitting, like, I don't even think it was in a car seat. I think it was just kind of strapped in over on the passenger side of the truck. And she's just like, yeah, first they tell us we got to wear seat belts, and next thing tell us we can't have a beer or two while we're driving. Next thing you know, we're going to be a communist country. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that looks crazy to us now, but there was a time. Robert says Dr. Logan was onto something, but it could have never worked. You can't socialize millions upon millions of zombies. Yeah, like I said, that would have been impossible, but I do think if there would have been some cooperation amongst the soldiers and the scientists, you know, possibly over time, train enough of them to just kind of go out and do the dirty work. So, but again, like, then what? You know what I mean? Like, then what? You're just gonna live underground forever? But there was something there, like I said, it was something that probably should have been done early on. But John says you can't do Backlund earlier. It isn't that much harder. Backlund won it from Superstar, who won it from Bruno. I think Bruno won it from Pedro. Not sure. Yeah, like before back, because Backlund was champion for like years before that. Because, and that, I mean, of course, that, I mean, it was easier back then, but that's kind of a period. Because I know Bruno was champion for like a decade. Superstar Billy Graham. Pedro was champion for a short period of time, and Sheik was kind of that transitional champion between Backlund and Hogan. Trying to think who was before that, but yeah, but like after, like, you know, rock and wrestling is kind of where, like, the first WrestleMania is kind of where I kind of started from my childhood, because that's when you could go to the video store and just rent all the old VHS tapes, the Coliseum home video tapes and whatnot. Since the smoking stopped being advertised as healthy around the 50s, even Fred Flintstone was advertising cigarettes with Barney back then in some wild black and white. Yeah, I remember seeing that ad. Was it around the 50s? Because yeah, I guess that's when television was born. But good point. Yeah, I remember seeing that ad with the Flintstones, and the cigarettes and whatnot. But it's like, come on. Everywhere is a goddamn beer commercial and a beer ad, and I'm sorry, but I've seen alcohol. Like, alcohol has ruined far more lives for me personally than cigarettes ever have. Like I have multiple friends who have died directly due to alcohol poisoning, drunk driving, you know. But you still see Budweiser ads in every sporting event, and, you know. So it's like, nah, alcohol is cool. Like, that's fine. Yeah, it ruins families and, you know, domestic abuse and all that, which I'll drink to that. it's like that fucking Carrie. It's like the world's going to hell in a handbasket. I'll drink to that. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it's not good for you, but it's not, you know, if you're going to outlaw everything that's bad for you and kind of demonize everything that's bad for you, then, you know, why alcohol just, there's no, you know, nobody cares about alcohol. Like, oh, that's cool, you know, just don't drink and drive. But even if you do, it's like, whatever. It's saying keeping track of the NWA world title is harder. All the unofficial drops for a week in Japan and other countries. Yeah, NWA title is a little harder, especially like once you get to the 90s, and then it's just like Chris Candido and Dan Severn, and you're just, because that's when it just kind of stopped being the NWA title. You know, it was just kind of an indie thing, I guess, or whatever you would call it back then. I guess you would call it an indie title back then. Rick says it seems that Dr. Logan knew that he was not working on a cure for all the victims, but rather he just wanted to prove he was right and that he could perform the operation, which is why he cut so many. Is there a part 2 to that? Let me look here real quick. This is why he cut up so many, I guess is what you're saying. Well, he was also crazy. He was also nuts. So we got to take that into account too. Something here. If I cut out real quick, hold with me. See if that does anything, but probably not. Probably not. Since as I can see Steele and Rickles doing a Generation X display for Sarah. Yeah, probably. They were probably DX for sure. biggest piece of meat in the cave. Chintz 2D says that would have been an awesome movie where Dr. Logan was actually successful in training a few zombies to go out in the wild to gather supplies or help eradicate some of the dead that are outside. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of George's original plan. In that original screenplay, that was kind of the thing. There was kind of an army of zombies that had been trained to kind of go out and procure supplies and whatnot. And that original, that original day screenplay that didn't get made, but yeah, never got to see it. Although a lot of that stuff that was in that screenplay ended up in Land of the Dead. So if you kind of combine Land of the Dead and Day of the Dead, you pretty much get that original script for the most part. Rob says your shirt looks better than the movie Martin itself. Well, I don't agree with that, but appreciate that. It is a nice looking little shirt here, I gotta say. Turned out pretty good. That's the thing with TeePublic. That's what I use. Like, when you make something on TeePublic, they don't send you a copy or a sample. So when I submit something, it's just like, I hope this turns out, I hope it prints well, I hope it looks good, if people buy it. So sometimes I'll have to just go buy it myself and just to try shit out and see how it's looking, see how it's going. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this one. Rick says he just wanted Captain Rose and the other thinking he was advancing on his research and that Dr. Logan was really wasting their time in the bunker. Possibly. Which I don't know, man. I feel like Logan was onto something. He was working diligently on something, but he was definitely crazy. He was definitely out of his mind. And I think if it would have continued, before the shit hit the fan and everybody was killed, if it would have continued, it wouldn't have ended up. There's no way Logan would have been able to train a bunch of zombies or anything. I mean, he was pretty much, out there by that point. Robert says Alpha and Omega and are how you pronounce the first and last letter of the Greek alphabet. That's right. Yes, you must listen, Captain. You must listen. Stuga says, I don't think my Walmart joke landed. I can't handle a mustache. It's too itchy for me. It's not any worse than an actual beard. Yeah. Not any worse than that. Rob says, I guess you could be right, Mike. If Land of the Dead teaches us anything, it's that they will follow the smart one. Yeah, and I think it was Jace last week who pointed out Flyboy, the Flyboy zombie in Dawn. He kind of has like an ESP thing going on with the zombies, which is kind of the first time you see that in Romero's zombie films. He was kind of the first leader of the zombies, which is why he's the king zombie, I guess. But he was kind of the first leader of the dead, because as soon as he comes out of the elevator and he starts walking towards, down the hall and up, like all the other zombies are kind of following him. And I never really thought of it. I never really put that together. But he was kind of leading all the other zombies to where he was going. And I don't know why they would have, because zombies just don't follow each other. But for some reason they knew to follow him down this hallway. So I think even before Bub or, Big Daddy, hey, King Zombie, man. King Zombie. Flyboy. Just in American Spirits? No, I hate American Spirits, man. Those are the nastiest damn things. I'm a Camel Crush man myself. Camel Menthol guy. Which I need to quit, because it's getting too damn expensive. It's like $10 a pack here in Indiana already. It's just like, Jesus. But yeah, that's kind of. But I've tried American Spirits. I've tried Marlboro Black. Marlboro Blacks were all right for a while. I had a girlfriend once who smoked Cools, like the cheap menthol cigarettes, and those things are god awful. The thing I like about the Camel Menthols, now that we're talking about cigarettes, I guess, the thing I like about Camel Menthols is that they got the little ball in the filter. You pop the ball, you roll it around, and then you get like this extra splash of menthol. So it's kind of like it's very minty and refreshing, but not really, Don't smoke, kids. For any kids out there watching, don't smoke. Don't start. I hate that I started, but you know, it's better than vaping. I'll take cigarettes over vaping any day. I see people walking around with the fucking vape, sucking on that and blowing out blueberry smoke and all this other shit. I'm like, I don't know, man. George smoked cigarettes. You'd never see George vape. Come on. But that's also the thing that killed George. So I don't know. Like I said, when I was talking to Christine back at Living Dead Weekend a couple of years ago, I was talking to Christine, and she was like, stop smoking. Do not smoke. Stop. I tried to get George to quit all those years, and he never would. And he would try, and he would always start again. And I was like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I understand. So I need to listen to Miss Forrest, Miss Christine Forrest, or Christine. I guess she's still Romero. Listen to that wisdom. Robert says, I remember watching the Dick Van Dyke Show on Blu-ray, and they showed a commercial where he was advertising cigarettes as though it was a good thing. Yeah, I mean, even in movies now, you don't really see a whole lot of people smoking. If you do, it's very briefly. But shit, back in the day, I mean, shit, George's movies, everybody smokes. Not just old Fran. You savage. And this is funny. So Justin says, moderation is key, mijo. I actually know what mijo means, because I used to get called that all the time. My uncle was Hispanic, and I met him in my teens. I guess I was probably probably 10, 11, 12, something like that, younger. He married my aunt, and they moved to Kentucky from California, and he always used to call me mijo. And I never knew what that meant until I had to look it up. Oh, okay, very cool. So yeah, I haven't heard that in a long time. That brings back, which he's passed on now, my Uncle Fidel, but he was a trip back in the day. Brings back memories. He'd either say mijo or my nephew, and be like, "What's up, my nephew?" And it's funny because when he first moved to Kentucky, like I said, he's Hispanic. He moved from California, and he was kind of, I never really got a full answer on it, but he was kind of involved in some gang activity in California. So when he moved to Kentucky, he was like lowrider and fucking, old school, like cholo type, had the long, I don't think he had long hair. He had kind of like a long, like rat tail thing going on there. But after being in Kentucky for a few years, that rat tail got cut off, and and started wearing NASCAR shirts. And I mean, he assimilated pretty quickly. So I always thought that was pretty funny. Since there's all the standard basic drug vices are fine, just keep them away from kids, unborn and unborn. Yeah, I think we can all agree with that. We'll all take we'll step out on a limb here and agree with that for sure. And it's funny because the one thing that gets demonized the most, well, I wouldn't say the most, but yeah, I mean, shit, even probably so, because I mean, if you look at like heroin or cocaine or anything like that, speed, like there's always a pharmaceutical equivalent to that gets prescribed to people like it's nothing. But like marijuana, you talk about smoking marijuana and people are instantly just like, oh, how dare you? Like why is that not? It's the most harmless thing that you can do, and you're not going to beat your wife. It's not reefer madness or anything like that. That old trope. So yeah, I mean, that one's still crazy. They just passed a law here in Indiana. I think they just passed a law that, because it's not a legal state, but we're right next to Illinois, which is a legal state. So we see billboards and stuff on the highways here in Indiana promoting, the cannabis stores in Illinois once you cross over the the state lines. But they just passed a bill here that bans, advertising on billboards. And it's funny because it's, I saw one comment on the news, the article that I was reading about that. One comment, the dude said, "Well, I never have time to look at the billboards when I'm driving through Indiana because I'm always trying to avoid the potholes," which is very, very fucking true. But yeah, I mean, marijuana is the one thing you don't really need to advertise anyway. So, since his Flyboy Zombie finally became assertive, but he had to die to do it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he finally stepped up. Chintz Virginia Slims are the best. All right, I'll take your word on that. Never tried them, but I'll take your word on it. I always got, because like the Marlboro Blacks, that always kind of tastes like marshmallow to me. I always kind of feel like that's what Virginia Slims taste like, is marshmallow for some reason. Robert says, it's funny we're talking about cigarettes tonight because I was talking to my wife and I'm going to quit cold turkey tomorrow. Well, good for you, man. Good. Hell yeah, dude. It's hard as shit. I quit once when I found out I was having my daughter. I quit. Like, I was like, all right, I'm done. Not smoking anymore. And I quit cold turkey. 9 months. 9 months. The night my daughter was born, as soon as she was born, and there's no feeling quite like, watching your child get, be into the world and all that. But it was the most exhausting, exhilarating thing I've ever experienced. So like after that, I was like, hey, I need a cigarette, and I was like, I'll just have one. I'm gonna go buy a pack. I'll have one. I'll throw the rest out tomorrow, and then here we are today. So, so yeah, if you can quit, just quit. Like just stop. I have heard though that people talk about hypnosis. I've heard quite a few people say, like my old boss, she was a heavy smoker, like smoked all the time. And then she went to like a hypnotherapist, got hypnotized, and never had a cigarette after that. Like never even craved it. Never talked about it. She was just like, yeah. I was like, wow, that's crazy. So, I mean, I don't know if that's an option for most people, but I have heard of that working, believe it or not. Zombie Historian says, in an early draft of Dawn in Romero's archive, there is a telepath that can control the zombies. Raising the Dead by Adam Hart mentions it. Yeah, I've actually read that. I read that original treatment, and there is a character, like a leader. He has like one eye missing. It reminds me like that treatment. It's not. I mean, I guess it's kind of a screenplay. I would say it's kind of. I'd say it's an early screenplay. It's incomplete. It's not finished. It just kind of ends at like page 80. But it reminds me a lot of the Omega Man. I've mentioned that before, but it's very reminiscent of the Omega Man to me. So yeah, that definitely was always in kind of Romero's, the back of his mind when he was writing Dawn and then the entire trilogy, was that these things will progress and get smarter and evolve over time. And, so yeah. And it's funny because like that Dawn, that original, because it's like early 70s, that original Dawn screenplay had pretty much everything there. The whole idea of the zombies getting smarter and reverting back to their previous lives, because there's like a butcher zombie in it that's literally in one of the shops in the mall hacking up meat and handing it out to the other zombies who are like waiting in line for it. And that all kind of plays itself out all the way through Land of the Dead. So it just took George, 3 decades to do it instead of doing it all in one film. So, which I think kind of worked out for the best. Chintz2D says, I actually got hooked on vaping, but after hearing about popcorn lung, I'm going to quit after I run out of my last 2 bottles of juice. Hey, after I heard about that goddamn popcorn lung, I'm going to quit after I finish what I got. That's always what I say. Like, I'm going to quit smoking after this pack. I'm going to smoke this last pack, and then I'm done. Yeah, the vaping thing, I just never caught my attention or just seemed appealing to me. Like, if I'm going to quit, I'm just going to quit. Like, it's just, I'll deal with it. But the thing when I quit is, like, I always gain weight because I have, like, an oral fixation, I think. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but sometimes if I have somebody on and they're talking and I'm listening, I'll have the issue where I'm just kind of moving my mouth and just trying to, so I always gotta have like gum or something, which I think is a big part of it. So if I'm not smoking, I'll just want to like snack or, which I think is a common thing I've heard people talk about before. We've talked about it fucking all kinds of shit today, guys. Justin said I used to be a Camel Crush menthol guy as well. There you go. Switch to vaping occasionally. Yeah, I know quite a few people that have quit smoking cigarettes and will just like vape when they get the urge, which I've thought about. But Chintz says Camel Crush was actually really good cigarette. Yeah, I mean they're $10 a pack, so they're a little better than your what are the not the Cools, but what are the Pall Malls? Those Pall Malls, man, hoosh. Since this Camel Clutch is better than Camel Crush. Son of a bitch, yeah. Iron Sheik says don't smoke. Don't smoke, jabroni. You are a piece of shit. I love Sheiky, baby. Justin says Kentucky or Indiana, which do you prefer? Kentucky. It's cheaper. That's my home state. So like Indiana's fine, but it's a little more expensive to live up here, and yeah, I don't know. Kentucky's I just prefer that's just my home. I'm just always I'll always consider myself a Kentucky guy, even though I live in Indiana. But I'm just like right on the border of Indiana, Kentucky, so I'm still pretty much like right here in Kentucky. But yeah, definitely. I'm definitely a Kentucky guy, especially when it comes to sports, like UK. And so I grew up on UK basketball and shit. Like pretty much anybody in Kentucky, unless you're born in Louisville or something like that. Hey, what's up, Steven? Steven Newstrike Jr. Popping in here. My opinion on wacky tobacco is it's not as bad as the government says it is, but it's not as healthy as potheads say it is. Proceed at your own risk. Yeah, I could agree with that. I wouldn't say, I will say, weed is definitely, you have to be, I would not recommend smoking marijuana if you are like a teenager, like if you're younger, if you don't know, because I mean, it can definitely be beneficial when it comes to like mental health and trying to say, I think how to put this. I've used marijuana and I've really gotten through some things in my life by just facing, because some people say, oh, I get really paranoid and I get really way too, and it's like, yeah, like that's kind of what happens if you like it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes if you get the right strain and you're in the wrong frame of mind, like sometimes it can take you in almost like a bad trip, like mushrooms or something. But at the same time, doing that, like facing those, like almost having panic attacks, like it was like almost like a panic attack. And this was like after one of my friends had been killed in a car accident. And I guess I never really. We're getting into some deep shit here tonight, guys. I'd never really dealt with it. Mentally, or I was like, I just kind of blocked it out, and then one night it just all hit me. I was watching, funny enough, a wrestling documentary called Memphis Heat, and it got to a part of the documentary where they were talking about a wrestler who died in a car accident on the way to a show, and I had been smoking, and then when that scene popped up and they started talking about that, it hit me like that. Like you become more aware of your mortality and your surroundings, and just like you become very aware that the world that we live in is I don't know, it changes your thinking, and it kind of kills your ego a little bit, and it makes you a little bit more of a humble human being, and it makes you more mellow, makes you more appreciative of things. But if you're not ready to handle that, it can definitely freak you the fuck out to the point where you're just like, oh my God, I'm never doing that again. So, I mean, it is beneficial in that way, but when you're younger and you're just being stupid and just smoking and smoking and smoking, like I know people that are like that would just like smoke and smoke and smoke and smoke and smoke just because they're trying to mask something, which alcoholics will do, and they're just trying to cover up a problem or a feeling or something like that. And I've seen people abuse it in that way for sure. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, anything. You can abuse food. Like, they're like, food is one of the most addicting, it's not a drug per se, but it's definitely one of the most addicting things, and especially in America because it's so abundant, it's so available. But people will abuse food just as much as they'll abuse drugs or alcohol too. It's just people, it's a coping method for people in different ways. But yeah, I don't want to. But you're definitely right, Steven. I totally agree with that for sure. I feel like we're having a counseling session tonight. But I dig it. It's cool. It's fun. Larry says, I haven't had a cigarette in months. I really only smoke when I hang out at events these days. At home, I don't smoke. If I go hang out with anyone or go anywhere, I don't smoke. See, like, that's ideal. Like, I would love to do that, and that's always kind of how it starts for me. Like, that's how I started smoking, was when I first started drinking and going to bars with friends, and all of a sudden, your friend was like, "Hey, you want a cigarette? You want to try that?" And I'm like, "Ah, sure. What the hell? You're already drunk, and you're making bad decisions anyway, so you're just like, hey, what the hell?" And then the next morning, you're like, "Oh God, that was terrible." It's like, I kind of want to do that again. Let me try another one of those, and then it's like after a while, it's like, um, but yeah. That's a good way to go about it. But that's the thing with me though. Like, if I'm hanging out with people or at an event, or it's just like it just becomes part of your routine throughout the day, like at work and stuff. It's like, oh, now I'm taking my smoke break. Like, gives you a chance to kind of relax and take it in, take a moment to yourself, and kind of, you know, um, you know, restack the cards, I guess, if you want to call it that. Chin says those vape juice bottles are expensive. Yeah, I've never bought them, so I don't know if it's cheaper or more expensive to vape than smoke. But I do know cigarettes are, especially in Illinois. Like, Indiana's bad, Kentucky's not as bad, but Indiana's bad. But Illinois is insane. Like, their prices are outrageous. Rob says my lungs can't handle menthol, and I hate the idea of vaping. Um, yeah, menthol can be a little funny, like Newports and stuff. Like, sometimes it can be a little much for certain people if you're not used to it. Um, Rick's laughing about something. I guess we're talking about me mentioning it's like a group therapy session here, but I mean it really is. I mean, we're just kind of just kind of bullshitting. But I'll get to the news here in just a second. We got a few news topics to talk about, and then we'll talk about some just kind of go through and look and honor the mothers of the Romero universe and their contributions. Chin says I used to smoke Pall Malls back when I lived in Brooklyn because everyone there smoked that brand because they were cheap. Yeah, they're the cheap ones for sure. Um, I always felt like if I'm at a point where I have to smoke, like, you go to the dollar bin or something like that's when you got a problem. It's like you're an alcoholic when you're buying 24 packs of Old Milwaukee every other day. You know what I mean? Um, Justin says you have to be in the right state of mind when smoking pot. Yeah, I mean, I don't think. I guess, yeah, you would have to be in the right state of mind, but even like if you're not in the right state of mind, like sometimes it can be really helpful if you realize you're not gonna, because that's the thing about weed, you're not gonna overdose on it. It's not gonna kill you, but at the same time, like, because that's the thing, like, a lot of people think it's like, oh my god, I got too high, I'm losing my mind. Like, you kind of lose control. Some people can lose control sometimes. But again, like I said, it can help people kind of in the same way mushrooms do, and it kind of helps you deal and cope with things that you can't, that you it's almost like your mind won't allow you to do when you're straight, or at least me, I don't know, me personally, but I have the ability to kind of shut things off and tune them out, and I don't really think about the past too much, but then every now and then, like, sometimes you need to accept things, like, anyway. Yeah, online shopping super addicting as well. Yeah, I mean, you can get addicted to anything, but it's just, and online shopping is really, really kind of a really bad one now because it's so easy. And I think people get addicted to buying shit on like eBay and stuff, like, because sometimes that's I get a rush out of that. Like, I think me and Jace were talking about that last week, just talking about the rush you get when you're in a bidding war with somebody on eBay for something, and you're just like waiting, and you're just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, am I gonna win it? Am I gonna win it? And then you hit that fucking thing, and it's like you win, and you're just like, oh man, it's like that sudden rush of excitement that you feel, and the serotonin that gets released is kind of the same way that I feel like a fucking heroin addict or something gets when they score. It's like, holy shit. Which I've never done heroin or any of that shit. Like that's just like like pills especially. Like never done any of that shit. I've seen what that shit does to people, and I've never wanted any part of that. Even when I broke my shoulder once, like when I broke my shoulder, they prescribed me some shit that was pretty much heroin. Like I said, a doctor will prescribe you any of those drugs, heroin, speed, whatever they feel like you need. They prescribed me. I took it one time, and I was just like, no, I'm never taking this again. I'll just take handfuls of ibuprofen if it starts to hurt too bad. So it wasn't even a feeling I liked. It wasn't like, oh man, I'm gonna stop this before I get addicted because oh man, this feels so good. It was just more like, oh, I don't like the way this makes me feel. Like I just wasn't that like that's just not me. Robert says, if I have one cigarette after I quit, I'll smoke for years so I can never smoke even one cigarette again. That's kind of how it is, man. And I always trick myself into that. Like when I do try to quit, it's like I said, when the night my daughter was born, I was just like, oh, I'm gonna have one, just to kind of take the edge off because it was a big moment and all that. But it never just stops at one. Even when that one you smoke, you get through half of it and you're like, this is disgusting, and I can't even finish this, and you throw it out and you still always go back. I don't know. It sucks. Yes, sir. I have a couple of Guinnesses tonight. Because I'm all out of my Iron City beer. So if folks at Iron City are watching and you want to hook a brother up for some free sponsorship, come on. I'll promote the shit. Come on, look at my hat. Come on. I'll promote the shit out of some Iron City beer. And all I ask in return is just maybe a free case every now and then. Rick says, what does a carton of ciggies go for now? 50? Oh, for the cheapest shit. Yeah. But like what I smoke is probably like 110 probably. Easy. For a carton. Robert says, my mother died the day before my wedding. Oh, so I don't celebrate Mother's Day, not to bring anyone down. I'm cool. I'm just sharing. That sucks, man. I hate to hear that. It says, okay, so mothers, who all has one? I guess yeah, you all have to. I hate to hear that, Robert. I'm sorry to hear that, brother. Yeah, man. Justin says, in terms of your problems, you can have a bad trip when you dwell on them. Yeah, you sure can. Larry says, I've been addicted to eBay since 1999. I believe that. I'm pretty sure I've lost quite a few bidding wars with you. I know I have on Felsher's live streams for sure. That's funny. Since says addiction can be anything, like in Hell of the Living Dead. I'm a tit man myself. There you go. Perfect spot to end. That's right, Justin. Although these aren't the extra stouts. These are just the regulars. So not too much. It's the summertime. So I don't want to go too fucking crazy and be all swamp creature down there or anything. But yeah. But anyway, fellas. So hour and 15. We've talked about wrestling. We've talked about beer. We've talked about drugs. We've talked about everything. Cigarettes. But we do have some news we could talk about. We can cover here. Some different announcements. Let me get some shit pulled up here for everyone. Guess we'll talk about this first because this is kind of old news, but I haven't touched on it really or really looked at it too much. But I finally got a chance tonight, so we'll talk about it. Get it to come up here. There we go. So yeah, I believe it's been mentioned in the chat. There we go. I like that layout a little better. Make my head a little bigger and kind of see what the hell's going on there. But I believe we've mentioned it in the chat, or we've mentioned it in passing here on one of the streams here recently. But Scream Factory has announced a brand new 4K release with an exclusive poster of Monkey Shines. It is available for pre-order now. Right now, $32.99 US for this 4K. It's available for pre-order, ships by June 3rd, so next month. Order from shopfactory.com, get an exclusive 18 by 24 rolled poster featuring the original theatrical artwork, available while supplies last. So again, this is kind of what Scream Factory usually does, because Scream Factory originally released Monkey Shines on Blu-ray some years back. It has since gone out of print and is kind of hard to find, although I have been seeing them pop up on eBay here recently for a lot cheaper than they have been ever since the 4K's been announced. I never picked up the Scream Factory Blu-ray because I got the this Eureka Blu-ray set from let me make sure here, from the UK. It's a nice little collection here, and it looks like pretty much all the bonus features on this thing are included on this 4K as well. A couple of new things here in terms of the bonus features. So we get a new 4K restoration from the original negative. That'll be cool. I'm curious to see what it looks like, what a 4K of Monkey Shines would look like, restored from the original negative. We do get a new audio commentary with film critic Eric Vespi and author Daniel Krause. We all know Daniel Krause because was co-author of The Living Dead, the Romero unfinished novel, as well as the recent Pay the Piper, which is a new one that was just released, which I haven't. I don't know, about halfway through Living Dead, because it's available. The audiobook's available on Spotify, so I've been listening to that here lately. But the new one, Pay the Piper, I haven't checked out yet. So I am aware of Daniel Krause. I know that name. I have no fucking idea who Eric Vespi is. And it's kind of a film critic. I'm not aware. It also has audio commentary with director and writer George A. Romero, which is also included on the original Blu-ray and the Eureka UK Blu-ray here as well. But yeah, the whole that seems to be like a new trend in releases in terms of audio commentaries, which I totally understand, because there's been so many audio commentaries done going all the way back to Laserdisc, in terms of commentaries with the actors and the filmmakers and the crew and stuff like that. So, and a lot of the people that you would want to hear from, you've already kind of heard from, and if you haven't, a lot of them have already passed on, so they're not available to do a new audio commentary. But I mean, like I said, I've total respect for Daniel Krause. I mean, he's done some good work with the Garf and all that. Like I said, I don't know who Eric Vespi is, but I don't really give a shit to hear their audio commentary on this, I swear. So take that what you will, but it seems to be like a common thing now. You see that a lot, and I started seeing it with Second Sight specifically. It was probably some before that, but Second Sight specifically, where Travis Crawford, who is like a film historian or whatever, which I think he's passed on, so I don't want to talk badly about him or anything, but he does commentaries on a lot of the Shout Factory. He did some on the Arrow. I think he does commentaries for There's Always Vanilla and the Crazies and all that. And like I said, I don't know this dude from Adam, but I was trying to listen to some of those commentaries, and I just couldn't do it. I was just like, what is this fucking like that's just not for me. Some people get into that, and some people, that's totally cool, but that's not what I care to hear in terms of an audio commentary track. And I do watch alongs, and we do fan commentaries on here, but it's most like we're just fans. Like we're just watching a movie we love and just having a good time. But like when you get like these film historians or experts or critics on, and then it's just kind of like A fun one, though, I'll say, is the Land of the Dead one that has like Felsher and Blasey, and it's just pretty much the fans, and they were, of course, in the film as well as zombies. So that one's fine, but I don't know. That's just my personal thing on it. So I don't really care about that commentary. But then you get the Blu-ray, and it's got all the extra features on here, which I'm pretty sure all of these are already available. I don't like I said, I don't have the original Blu-ray that Scream Factory did of Monkey Shines, but it is available on the Eureka UK release. Experiment in Fear of the Making of Monkey Shines, an alternate ending, which I think if I'm not mistaken, I haven't seen it in a long time. I think I may have seen it once, but I think that's a Felsher produced documentary there. Alternate ending, behind the scenes, like a vintage behind the scenes, or a vintage Making of Monkey Shines video, behind the scenes footage, vintage interviews, TV spots, theatrical trailers, still galleries, and a partridge in a pear tree. So, I don't know, is this something you guys are interested in picking up? I do feel like this is one title like that Scream Factory will release on 4K that kind of deserves a re-release because the original's gone out of print. It's kind of hard to find. So this is the perfect opportunity for people that do not own that original Blu-ray to pick it up. You get the 4K as well as the Blu-ray in this. And so, I mean, it makes total sense for them to re-release something that's been kind of out of print for quite some time. But what do you guys think? I mean, 33. I mean, that's kind of what they kind of go for. For me, like, I do look forward to seeing this in 4K to see what the transfer looks like. Because I mean, it looks fine on this transfer, which I'm guessing is probably the same transfer that they used for the original Scream Factory Blue. So I'm curious to see what it looks like in 4K. But that's always my issue with Scream Factories. There's never new features. They don't really add anything that's not already been there, other than the new commentary with the film critic and Daniel Krause. So I mean, outside of that, I mean, I would just be rebuying it just to see it in 4K, which I'm not doing the pre-order. I don't really care about the poster or anything like that. But it's one of those that I'll wait until there's a sale on the Shout Factory website, because they have those a few times a year. I'll wait to get it. I'm not tripping over myself to pick this up. Like I said, I do like the film. I just rewatched it last night, and I do have an appreciation for it. But it's not like it's not like a new release of Dawn or Martin or something like that, where I will literally release that on anything. Give me some new one new feature. I'll buy it. But what do you guys think? Is Monkey Shine? Are you guys fans of Monkey Shines at all? Because it's kind of one of those that doesn't really get talked about a whole lot when it comes to Romero. I know Born to Be Rad, Garrett is a huge Monkey Shines fan. And then that's I think that might be his favorite Romero film, or at least it seems like it. But what do you guys think? You guys are gonna be picking up Monkey Shines in 4K? Let's see. Where are we at? Oh, I'm a cool cat. Thank you very much, sir. You're a cool cat yourself. Robert says Monkey Shines 4K day one from Robert's day one. Very cool. Because I mean, like I said, it makes sense if I didn't own it already. Like I said, I don't own the Scream Factory, but I think this is a pretty, which I'll show you guys it's got the slip cover with that original artwork, which is great artwork right there. Which actually, it's different artwork than what's on here, because here you got the monkey with the symbols, and on this one you got the monkey crazed with the razor. So I kind of dig that. But it's a two disc set there. You get the Blu-ray as well as the DVD. You get a little booklet. It's got a smell to it, I mean, it's a nice little package. I think you can find these on eBay. They're not too pricey. So yeah, I think if I didn't own it already on this, I would probably be day one on this. But like I said, I'll eventually get it at some point. It's over there for now. Larry says, I wish I knew that was coming and being worked on. I own a 10-minute cast and crew video featuring every important person that worked on Monkey Shines. It's never been seen. Got it from Nick Tallo's house before it was sold. Yeah. Dude, I mean, well, that's the thing. Like, it's like I mentioned a minute ago. It's like Scream Factory, they don't add new things to their new 4K releases, really. Like, outside of that audio commentary, it's pretty much everything's already been released on something before. So it's just like, here's a 4K. And that's it, really. So give me your money. So yeah, I would love another company to kind of get a hold of it at some point, because I would love to see that footage. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe a 4K release overseas or something like that. Maybe Eureka would do it. I don't know. Justin says I want that Monkey Shines, but I hate supporting Scream Factory. I don't have a real grudge with Scream. They do a good job. Pretty much every 4K that I've ever gotten from Scream Factory looks pretty damn good, I gotta say. Like the Creepshow 4K looks really, really good, looked great. So I've never really had an issue with Scream Factory. My biggest issue is that they re-release shit on 4K that's already out on Blu and don't really add anything new to it. You know, it's just kind of like, oh, buy this again in 4K. And it's like, yeah, all right. Which some people do, but I don't know. Not me. That ain't me. Robert says the experts are idiots, but I love Michael Felsher. Yeah, I would listen to a commentary with Felsher for sure. Felsher, Larry. I don't know why they don't get you guys, Larry. Which Larry's speaking here. Larry says, I actually can't stand fan or expert commentators. It's all info that is out there and regurgitated, nothing new. I refuse to listen to anymore. I listened to some in the past, got angry, won't anymore. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, too. Like, not even... Like, I can forgive it. Like I said, that commentary for Land of the Dead, which, you know, had Blasey and Felsher, and it was just, they were just kind of talking about their time on set and how they discovered Romero and their love of the films and stuff. But yeah, when you get like the experts and stuff, and they're telling you, oh, well, this means this, and this is hearkening back to this film from the 50s and all this shit, and you're just like, no, nobody cares. Like, like you're just pulling the shit out of your ass. Literally pulling the shit out of your ass. So yeah, I'm with you, Larry. I'm with you on that. Since I hear you wrote, my mom died in 1993. Mother's Day is rough. Yeah. Luckily, my mom's still around. I was able to see her today. Made the trip back to Kentucky and hung out, saw her today. But yeah, I can see how that could be a pretty rough day. Father's Day too. I mean, you know. Rick says, just heard of the title but never watched it. I guess Monkey Shine. Well, you check it out, man. It's a solid movie. I don't think it's George's voice as a lot of his earlier stuff, but it's definitely worth checking out. Definitely worth watching for sure. Chin says, I've never seen Martin. I heard it was good. I'm shocked I've never heard of it until recently. I don't even know what the movie's about. Well, yeah, I mean, I can hire a recommendation. I mean, right here, come on. Like I said, it's probably my second favorite film behind Dawn of the Dead. I could watch it anytime. I'm a huge fan. But I mean, Robert watched it and had never seen it, and had watched it on my recommendation and didn't care for it. So I mean, it's not for everybody. It's definitely a different type of horror film. Horror is kind of not even the word for it, because it doesn't play out kind of like it's more of like a art house. Not even art house. I wouldn't even put it that way. It's just a very indie story of a kid who's struggling. I don't know how to explain it. It's totally fucking out there, but I love it. I love every bit of it. It's what I would do with a vampire story if I had the opportunity. But yeah, check it out, man. And if you check it out, let me know what you think. It says Monkey Shines is on my list, but towards the bottom I have the older Blu-ray. So if you have the Scream Factory Blu-ray, you should be fine. Unless you just want to see it on 4K, which I think it'd look pretty good in 4K, actually. Rob says, Mike, your copy of Monkey Shines is Blu-ray, not 4K, though. I almost got that, but I'd rather have the 4K and Blu-ray. Yeah, I mean, Blu-ray is fine for me right now. Like I just don't want to drop $35 on just a 4K upgrade of something that already exists out there. Especially when all the features and stuff I already have. So it's just kind of, but like I said, it's one of those things that if it'll be on sale one day, and I'll probably pick it up, kind of like I did with the Two Evil Eyes from Blue Underground. Like I just waited until that price dropped on that, and Justin says, everyone hit that like and sub. Let's get Mike to 2K subs. Thank you very much, man. Yeah, everybody hit the thumbs up on the video, like this motherfucker, and subscribe. I am almost at 2,000, which is pretty crazy. It seems like yesterday I was just like, I'm gonna start this channel. If I get 100 subscribers, I feel like that'd be pretty good. But I don't really know how many people would actually give a shit to hear me talk about George Romero for hours on end. But yeah, I underestimate the power of Romero. I'll say that. And I've met some pretty goddamn cool people. All y'all in the chat, like I love doing that. Like, this is why I could go for 3 hours on a stream, and just go through you guys' comments and just kind of banter back and forth. Like that's my favorite part of doing these live streams. So it's just been really cool. And when I hit 2,000, maybe I'll do a special live stream. Maybe I'll have a giveaway. I'm trying to figure out what to do. Maybe try and do something different for you guys, but we shall see. Thanks for that, man. I appreciate it. Robert says it's become popular to crap on Scream Factory, but they're the OGs. No one's better. I wouldn't say no one's better. I think they're the most... Like, for me, Arrow Video, I would much... Like, I put Arrow over them, which we'll talk about them here in just a second. Second Sight, I think, has surpassed them, but they're UK, they're overseas, so, you know. But, you know, Scream Factory, I mean, in terms of their selection, you really can't beat it. I mean, they got most of the big titles in the US. So I don't really have an issue with them. Like I said, they do good work, as far as I'm concerned. Ed, yeah, Patreon that footage. I'd pay. There you go. It's a good idea, Ed. Larry says, I don't really want to do any commentaries, honestly. There are people that worked on it that are so much more important and have info that nobody else has. Yeah, I agree with that. But I do enjoy... Part of what I enjoy about like doing this channel, doing these streams, is getting a fan's perspective on why something touched them or means something to them. Like I love, like, obviously commentaries with the people that made them that have the information and the experiences and all that is definitely preferred. Like that's what I grew up on. Like I've listened to all these commentaries so many times over. But every now and then, sometimes it's fun to just listen to, you know, listen to the fans kind of have fun with the movie and talk about the movie and their experiences with the movie and stuff like that. But yeah, I tend to agree mostly with that. Because there are so many people out there that are still available to do commentaries. Like, god damn, give me Mike Gornick and Tom Dubinsky commentaries on everything that they worked on together. And give me like 2 or 3 different versions of it. Just let them keep going, because you know that they leave out stuff. That's what I would want. That's what I want to hear. Which you know, yeah, Dubinsky, Gornick, John Rice. Like I'd love to hear from Nick Mastandria. There's so many guys that are still available out there for these Romero titles that have some stories and can tell, you know, tell us things that we don't know yet. You know. But I also think, like, for most people, like, commentaries are just kind of a thing that most people don't really dig into. Like, the common, you know, just common fans, or not common fans, but, you know, just the general public. Like, I don't think a lot of people, which, I mean, I guess a lot of people don't really buy physical media anymore. So I guess the people that are buying physical media now and are spending $35, $40 for these 4Ks are buying them for all the features and stuff, too, So yeah, scratch that. I guess but back in the day for DVDs, like I don't think your normal person's really buying something based on a commentary. Yeah, the Nightbreed and Child's Play fiascos pretty much made me realize their schemes. Yeah, the Child's Play, what was it, the off-gassing issue? Chintz, what is Martin about? How would I summarize Martin without giving anything away? Or it's a vampire. It's a modern vampire story about a young kid who believes he's a vampire, who's been brought up by his family to think that he is a vampire, who moves to the small, dying steel mill town of Braddock, Pennsylvania, right outside of Pittsburgh. And it just kind of follows him and his battle with, you know, with the mental disease or the physical, or if he really is a vampire, is he just thinking he is? But it's I don't know. It's hard to really box it in and kind of give a concise description of what it is without really getting into your own thoughts and theories of it. Just watch it and I don't know. Just watch it. Let me know what you think. What are you? Just let me know your theories on it. I'll check it out. I'll do recall seeing the cover Monkey Shine's movie in the video rental store back in the day. Yeah, check it out. It's a good one. It's not my favorite for sure, but it is a very enjoy. I will say it plays out kind of weird. It is a little slow to get to any of the horror elements. I did notice that last night watching it, which I always kind of knew it, but it does kind of start out as kind of not a feel good because a guy gets paralyzed, but it is kind of Lifetime story-ish at times. It's very cute, like the monkey's kind of cute, and you're having these moments with the monkey and Alan, the main character, that's kind of cute, and it goes from cute, and then by the end, it's not so fucking cute, basically. So give it some time. Bear with it. But like the first 45 minutes or so before anything weird starts happening, it does kind of feel like something you'd watch with your grandma or something. A million subscribers. I would love 1 million subscribers, but honestly, honest to God, I would rather have 2,000 engaged, like kick-ass, like passionate fucking subscribers that actually like really dig what I do and dig Romero and want to talk about it and love coming on here with me once a week and just bullshitting about it. I'd rather have that than 1 million subscribers of people that could care less, that are just there. Because I've seen that. It's funny. I see channels all the time that have like, 20,000 subscribers, 30, 50,000 subscribers. And you're like, wow, they must be popular. And then they drop a video or they do a live stream and it's like nobody's really that engaged with it or really and it's just kind of like, huh, like, well, I guess there are like bots and ways you can buy subscribers and shit like that. But, like I said, when I first started, I was like 100 people. If I got 100 people on here to give a shit about what I'm talking about, like that's a win for me. So, so the fact that I'm almost at 2,000 and I can look forward to chatting and hanging out with you guys once a week like that's like, I literally have it written down. I think it may be in my phone or something like that. When I first started doing this channel, I was like, what do I want? Like, why do I want to start this channel? Because I was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to, go full bore into it, like, and really be consistent and try to really take it seriously. But why am I doing it? If I'm just doing it to like stroke my own ego or try to get subscribers or try to get clicks or likes or try to, it's like I've never been good at that. I'm not going to do that. I've literally, go back and watch my first videos. It's literally me sitting like talking to nobody for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, just like babbling about like my theories on fucking There's Always Vanilla. It's just, I just had to get it out. And I was like, if somebody else is attracted to this and actually gives a shit and wants to talk about it, like, I'm totally down for that. So the fact that that you guys come and are always hanging out and having a good time, hopefully having a good time, and sharing your thoughts and really made me look at certain things in different ways. Like that's all I care about. And that's what I put, like, when I was like, I just want to connect with other like-minded people, because I've, being a diehard Romero fan is like a different thing than being like a diehard just a horror fan in general or whatever. Like, I am definitely a huge horror fan, but like specifically like talking about Romero was always kind of my thing. And I was like, I never knew anybody like in my personal life or anything like that to talk about this shit with. So I've luckily found you guys, you crazy fuckers, to come on here and chat about this shit with. So that's, I'm happy with that, man. But that means a lot to me, Robert. I appreciate it, my man. Yes, sir, Justin. Because we all share the love of horror flicks. Absolutely. Robert says, I've said it before, I'll say it again. There's something different about George. He stands above the rest. I agree with that. And I've often wondered, because it's like, John Carpenter, Wes Craven, Tobe Hooper, Cronenberg. Look, there's so many great horror directors out there. What was it about Romero that grabbed my attention? I think the zombie genre, for one, grabbed my attention just because like the idea of the end of the world, the idea of going outside and seeing the world in upheaval was always attractive to me. Like from the moment, that's what drew me to Resident Evil. Like when I saw that game, I was like, holy shit, this is so cool. Like it's like the real world, but everything is all upside down. Like everything is not as it is, you know, in real life. So when I discovered all those films, I was like, oh, this George Romero guy, I keep seeing his name. And then you watch him and you listen to interviews or you see him do interviews and you're like, oh, this guy's so genuine and so cool. He's just a blue collar, like he's the blue collar horror director in my opinion, like more so than your Cronenbergs and Argento. I love Argento, but like those guys are, you know, definitely more artist types. Whereas if George was ever just, if you ever just like, oh, George, you're such an artist, George would be like, you know, I just like telling stories, man. And he tells stories about places that are recognizable because everything was, you know, shot local. He put Pittsburgh on the map. Yeah, I don't care what anybody says. He put Pittsburgh on the map in terms of the filmmaking community for sure. But yeah, I agree. I could go on about that forever, but we'll get through these. I got a couple more news stories, and then we'll talk about our main event tonight. Harp says Second Sight has not surpassed them because they have 12 movies. It's a good point. But when they do put out something, man, it's good. It's good. Steven says a little off subject. Well, I mean, that's par for the course tonight, sir. Little off the subject, but is there any movie that you're dying to get on Blu-ray that you can't find anywhere? My movie is The Guardian from 1986, starring Louis Gossett Jr. and Martin Sheen. SLC Punk is one that I love with Matthew Lillard and Devon Sawa from like the late 90s. That's not out on Blu-ray, I don't think. I've never seen it anywhere if it is. But yeah, that's one that I'm dying to get to upgrade to Blu-ray at some point. Oh man, there's definitely some out there. I said it last week. Knight Riders, like I think Knight Riders would be fucking gorgeous on 4K. If you do a full restoration of Knight Riders in 4K and put that sucker out, if like an Arrow or something like that, put it out there, I think that would look gorgeous. Like that's big on my list. Other one, there's definitely some that I'm just not thinking of right now. Let me come back to that. I'm sure it'll come to me after a while. That's a good question. It says Martin is a teen vampire that becomes a radio star. There you go. That's perfect example. The Count. Robert says you hinted in the past about the Dark Half coming out. Give me the scoops. Did I? When did I about the Dark Half? I don't know about that. Possibly. Possibly. You'll find out sooner rather than later. Mai says, hell yeah, Mai. Slippy 2 scoops. Yeah, I'm not Slippy. I don't have the scoops. I just hear secondhand shit from people because I'm always listening. Like that's one thing. Like I'm sure people think like because I'm on here just fucking yapping nonstop, and people meet me in real life, and I'm a little more reserved and quiet because I love hearing people talk because I'm always trying to like hear things. Like I want to hear stories. I want to gather. Like I'm just kind of I love listening to people. I love listening to their point of view, which is why I like going to the chat, I guess, and just talking to you guys. But yeah, like I just listen. I always have an ear out for shit. So like if I pick something up, I'm just like, oh, okay, I'll store this away, and we'll see what happens with that. Hey, Grande's Graveyard is in the house. Says Alpha is the best. Enjoyed his show since day one. Keep up the great work. Well, I appreciate that, my man. Yeah, if you guys haven't checked out Grande yet, Grande's Graveyard, check him out every Thursday. It's never want to miss it. His stuff. You never know. He was doing Sonic the Hedgehog movies, which I think was a request, but like you don't know what the fuck this dude's gonna cover. But that's the thing about Grande is like I'm very specific like knowledge about Romero. Grande knows like shit about every fucking thing, like every movie that's ever been made. Like he's just like a young savant. Like I don't know. But I appreciate that. You have been since pretty much since the ground up. I think because it was. Yeah, I mean, that was probably right around the time I first started when I discovered your channel, and we kind of started corresponding back and forth. So yeah, you've been there since day one, my man. You were my first guest. I think you were the first guest I ever had on to do a stream with. So um, I've always appreciated that, man. I sincerely do. Justin says Alpha's the guy you see outside smoking a cig, thinking about zombies. I can't help it in some spots, like literally like if I'm at a mall, obviously I automatically think like, oh, how would this work? Like how would we would have to close this entrance and all that. Um, I don't know. I am typically the guy you'd see outside smoking a cig, but I'm probably thinking about like other just dumber shit like fantasy football or something like that. I get very serious about fantasy football too. Like that's a big problem. Rick says you have one of the coolest YouTube channels. Well, I appreciate that, Rick. I try to be cool. I try to be cool. As cool as a 36-year-old man can be at this point, I guess. I appreciate the accolades, guys. Jeff says, love your show. It's great to connect with like-minded people. Absolutely. Absolutely. Appreciate that, sir. Chin says, George was so good at explaining the downfall of society in his movies. He was brilliant at his look at social issues. Yeah, I mean, way ahead of his time, too, man. Like, I see that all the time. Like, something will happen in the news, and I'm just like, oh, shit, George called that, you know, like COVID. Like, COVID is a perfect example. Like, the crazies. Yeah, like, it's so, like, I don't know. It's just like, God, George knew exactly what would happen. If something like that really broke out, like, George knew, like, oh, yeah, we just end up just fighting amongst ourselves, and it would just get botched to hell anyway. So it's like, yeah, that's kind of what happened. Just says children shouldn't play with dead things, but Bob Clark, is he related to Sean? I don't think he's related to Sean Clark, but I could be wrong. But I don't think so. Jen says, also, have you heard of 9mm Theater? That channel is so good at narrating a zombie plague that wipes out civilization in AM radio form. I don't think I have. That sounds kind of cool, though. 9mm Theater. I'll check that out. Is that on YouTube? That's actually a pretty cool idea, actually. Robert says, if you didn't know, you would tell us plainly, bro. Yeah. We shall see. Larry says, the Night Riders negative might be in the same place as the Day negative with that dude in South Africa. Both films were owned by UFTC and probably held in the same vault or facility. It makes sense. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense, actually. Because it is kind of... I'm very surprised that nothing's been done with Night Riders so far. Because I think the last thing we got in the U.S. was... You know, speaking of Scream Factory, was the Shout Factory Blue from... When did this come out? It's been quite a while since this came out. Let's see a fucking date on it. Yeah, it's been quite a few years since this came out. So I'm surprised. But I have heard that negative, that, you know, the Day negative has been found, but nothing's really imminent. Anybody do anything with it? But I don't know how the fuck it'd be in South Africa. It's just it's such a weird story. There's got to be a story there that I'm dying to hear. Grind says, honored to have been your first guest. Love working with you. Thanks for the kind words as always. Absolutely, man. Yeah, I've always loved chatting with you, man. It's easy. It's easy as shit, because it's like we know we just have the banter down. You know, we got it. And I always learn shit from you. I always learn something. Robert says, you're acting secretive, so you know. Give me the scoop, bro. Come on, Sleepy Toe. I can't say anything. I'll just say stay tuned. Liquid Cooler, what's going on, man? Says, wish Day of the Dead got a bigger budget. I'd like to have seen Sarah and Miguel walking through the desolate city while zombie worked their way through the street. Yeah, and I agree with that too. Still love the film we got, but yeah, it would definitely been cool to Because like when I first saw Day of the Dead, like I was so excited in that opening when they're in the desolate city, and I'm just like, oh man, this is gonna be fucking awesome. Like they're gonna be, like the action's about to pick up, and they're gonna be running through the streets, and it's gonna be zombie, because it's gonna be Dawn of the Dead, but instead of a abandoned shopping mall, it's gonna be an abandoned city. I'm like, holy shit, yes, this is what I want. And then it's like, nope, we're going underground. Bye. It's like the rest of the movie's underground. I think that's why a lot of people didn't like it at the time, but. It is a killer opening for sure. But good to see you. Justin says Alpha's the guy in high school who gets the fine broad because of his knowledge of Romero flicks, usually the proper goth gal. I don't know if it was my Romero knowledge. Again, like nobody, like when I was in high school, nobody fucking knew what Dawn of the Dead was or knew, like they'd probably heard of Night of the Living Dead, but when I was in high school, everybody was, spanking their monkey to, the Hostels and The Ring and all that shit. So like if the kids that were into horror, like some of my friend Zach, who's like a tattoo artist now, and like we kind of gravitated because he liked some of the older stuff. Like he was more of like a Hellraiser guy and those types. But like I was the only guy that ever talked about or knew or watched Dawn of the Dead, or any of those Romero films really. Right, says Night Rider 2014. Okay, yeah, that sounds about right. So yeah, it's over a decade old. So yeah, it's about due. I'm surprised, even if it's not even like Shout, like even somebody, I'm surprised hasn't done that yet in 4K. Jen says, yeah, 9mm theaters on YouTube. It's a weekly show, long-term storytelling about a plague that called the Pace virus that turns people into mindless zombies. Has a Romero vibe to the story. It's very cool. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. I'm gonna write that down because I'm always looking for stuff to listen to because my job, I spend a lot of time driving around, so I'm always trying to find podcasts or something to listen to, or to get into something to kind of make time go by, because I travel a lot, so I'll definitely give that a shout. Thanks for the heads up, man. 9mm theater. All right, I got a couple other little bits of news here we'll touch on real briefly. And then we'll talk about some mothers, since it is Mother's Day, and we got a bunch of mothers in the chat tonight. Let me kick us out. I'll stop that. Get that out of here. Oh, I forgot this banner's been up the whole time too. Thought that'd be kind of fun. But speaking of Day of the Dead. We did get a little bit of Day of the Dead news. Not a whole lot, but the announcement has been made. Let me pull up this image file here. One-man show, guys. One-man show. But Red Band Releasing has announced that Day of the Dead will be returning to theaters this year. There you go. And Red Band Releasing is the same company that does the release, like the Dawn of the Dead theater run past few years. So this will be pretty cool. It's going to be the first time that I think Day has kind of had somewhat of a widescreen release, or not a widescreen release, but a widespread release back in theaters. And Day of the Dead is one of those films that is one of the only Romero films left that I haven't seen actually on the big screen. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't know how close or how many theaters it's going to be running. There's not a lot of information on it yet. I don't know when it's going to be in theaters, what theaters it's going to be in, but it has been announced that this year, for the 40th anniversary of Day of the Dead, it will be returning to theaters, and I'm looking forward to that. And in related news, for anybody out there that will be attending Living Dead weekend, it was announced this week as well that they added a new event that Sunday morning at 10 a.m. they will be doing a screening of Day of the Dead in the mall and having like a breakfast. It's called Start Your Day with Day of the Dead, and some of the cast is going to be there as well, and you're going to watch it on the big screen, which sounds cool as shit. But I've already got my Sunday morning booked with Larry on the last tour of the weekend. I think Synth's going to be there, Matt, Paul, Will, Brett. I think 1911 Guitar Dude's got the Sunday tour. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm probably gonna be kind of hungover, to be honest with you, because that Saturday night is gonna be the VIP party, and I'm planning on getting Rosemary Rixie drunk. That's what we call it, Rixie drunk. So, but it should be fun. It should be a good time. So I'll miss out on that, but it is a really cool way to start your Sunday. Sunday brunch, I guess, is kind of what it is. It's at 10 a.m., starts at 10 a.m. But if you don't get a chance to see it there, if you don't get a chance to do that, it will be returning to theaters, theaters and drive-ins as well. So that'll be really cool. And I'm looking forward to finally seeing it on the big screen with an audience. And I do look forward to seeing George's films in theaters with like an audience that's not already huge fans of George's, because I do just love to just sit and pick people out and be like, oh, how are they reacting to this? What do they think of this guy getting torn apart? So that's exciting. So we got that to look forward to this year. And then one last thing here that just got announced from Arrow Video this week, actually, just the other day, as a matter of fact, is that Arrow Video has also announced a 4K release of Creepshow 2 coming later this year. So got that to look forward to as well. So a lot of news breaking this week. Some physical media releases. Well, I guess the Monkey Shines release is kind of an old news topic, but that one, just the Creepshow 2 news, was just released, I think, just a couple of days ago, as a matter of fact. They also announced they're doing 4K releases of Thief, Michael Mann's Thief, which is a good film that I just watched here recently for the first time. The Live and Die in L.A., the William Friedkin film. That's Friedkin, isn't it? What else was there? There were quite a few. They announced like 10 new releases coming this year. But the Creepshow 2 4K, I'm kind of looking forward to that. They've done my Creepshow 2 stuff's over there. But Arrow did do a release of Creepshow 2 some years back, and for the Blu-ray, which looks fine, looks great. They did a special edition version as well that included a comic book, which was the fourth story, called Pinfall, that George wrote, that they didn't end up shooting, but they added the comic book to it, and those go for some pretty big money. I had that at one point, but I ended up selling it because somebody offered me just a shit ton of money for it. So I was like, yeah, you can have it. I already have the other Blu-rays. So, but I am looking forward to it, because Arrow, like I mentioned earlier, Arrow does it right, man. When Arrow does a release of something, the packaging is going to be beautiful. It's the transfer is going to look great. I do think it is. I think it's a UK only release, so you would have to order it from overseas. But the beautiful thing about 4K is that all 4Ks are region free, so you don't have to worry about region lock shit. Other than a lot of the times, if you get something from overseas, the bonus features will be Blu-ray, and those are region locked. But I am looking forward to seeing what they do with the cover art, the box art, what little goodies they're going to include with it. So that'll be cool. And it'll be cool to see Creepshow 2 in 4K. I saw on Dead Pit the other night, they were talking about how the raft segment's going to look with the little black blob in the lake. Like, how's that going to look? Because that already looks... It's already on the verge of looking kind of cheesy, and Nicotero and them have talked about it in the making of documentary. They were like, oh, we did what we could with that, but I mean, it was like, after a while, it just kind of looks like a bunch of garbage bags, kind of floating around in a lake. So we'll see what that looks like in 4K. But I've always been a big fan of Creepshow 2. Like, from the time I first saw it, I was like, this is actually pretty good. And it took me a while to watch it. Because I loved Creepshow, but when I saw Creepshow 2, and I was just like, I don't know, man, it just looks kind of, I don't know, it looks a little corny. But when I did see it, I was like, this is actually pretty good. And the raft segment is probably right up there with one of my favorite Creepshow segments, period. Really well done segment. And the other two are fun. The thanks for the ride, lady. I'm a fan of Creepshow 2, and I mentioned this. I think I mentioned it because I did a Creepshow 2 watch along last year before Living Dead weekend. But I think I mentioned that I do kind of like the main theme song for Creepshow 2, maybe a little bit better than Harrison's main theme for the original Creepshow. I love the and then the bass kind of pops in, boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. I don't know. There's something a little more eerie about that theme to me. But yeah, what do you guys think? You're going to pick up the Creepshow 2 4K coming from Arrow. It said late. It didn't give a specific date when they would go on sale, but it did say late 2025. So, we'll see. But yeah, it should be out later this year. And we haven't got any more information on it, but we're also pretty sure late 2025 we're going to be getting the Savini Night 90 4K as well. So there's a lot of shit coming this year, guys. A lot of stuff to look forward to. So I'm pretty excited with everything Romero that's coming out. So yeah, that's pretty much the news for this week. Well, what do you guys think? What are you guys going to pick any of those up? You guys going to go see Day in theaters? Of course you are. You'd be crazy not to. Let me get these out of here. Slowing shit down. Oh, where was I? Okay, Justin, literally, I do drive a white, sketchy van for my job. I do. How do you know that? That's weird that you know that. But I think about that all the time, too, because I do work at a lot of colleges as well, so it just looks like I'm driving around these college campuses in this white van. And creepy guy with the mustache, just looking like, hello there, girls. Come on, hop in for a little candy. That's just how I feel about it. I don't know. That's how I feel like I look when I'm driving that van around certain areas. Liquid Cooler, this is awesome news. Absolutely. I can't wait to see Day in back in the theaters. It's gonna be the first time for me seeing it, which it has been shown, but nowhere around here. But hopefully we can get it close to Evansville. Surely. That's right. That's right, Larry. Rixie drunk. We doing it right. Which I hope Rosemary's there this year. She's a blast. She was wilding out last year, but she took a real liking to Will. I'll say that. But she was cool. She was cool. All right, Guinness number 2. Robert says, what website can I go to find out when old movies like Day are coming out? I don't know specifically like old movies, but Red Band Releasing is the name of the company that handles that. It's Leaf Jonker. I think it's how you pronounce it. Leaf Yonker, maybe. I think the J may be silent. But he was the one in charge of the Dawn release, the 3D release, and all that. He's kind of handling the Day release as well. So Red Band Releasing. I would just Google that. I think there's probably a website or a Facebook page. I know there's a Facebook page dedicated to it, but I'm sure they'll announce like all the theaters and stuff that'll be participating in it, kind of like they did with the Dawn 3D and whatnot. And there'll probably honestly be a 40th anniversary poster as well, which would be pretty fucking cool. I'll definitely want to get my hands on, kind of like the Dawn 3D poster back there. They did another poster for the Dawn 45th anniversary. I have over there somewhere rolled up, which I need to put up somewhere. But yeah, Red Band Releasing. I'd keep an eye out on that. Since says Night Riders needs a proper release, 4K with goodies. Fan of that since I randomly saw it in theater in 1981. Yeah, I mean you could do so much with Night Riders, and they kind of did that with the Night Rider soundtrack. Oh fuck, what was the company? They just did the Night Riders vinyl release. Scareflare Records. They kind of did that, which was a great release if you're a vinyl collector. But they kind of did that with the because it also includes kind of an insert that has, it looks like a flyer for like the like if they were coming to your town or something. It's kind of like it was what the flyer would look like that they would hand out, or like a program they would hand to you when you come in. But yeah, I'm all for definitely all for a Night Riders release. That's right, Liquid Cooler. The darkest day in horror the world has ever known. Day of the Dead. Kind of sound like the Undertaker there. I don't know. Excuse me. Larry says, Rosie asked me if she could be a guest again, but I had to tell her that we didn't have as much space as previous years and we could not fit her. Well, she lives right down the road. Just tell her to come on down. Just come hang out. I kind of want to get her autograph just for the shit of it. Like, just for the memory of, driving her home last year and that experience. That And I told Will that, and Will was kind of like, yeah, man, I'm kind of with you. Like, I'd probably get it for free. I was like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, she was cool. She's a cool chick. Chintz says, I love the old Dead movies are getting re-released in theaters. I'd seen Dawn of the Dead when they released it in Regal Theaters last year. I paid over $100 to take family that have never seen the movie. Very cool. Yeah, $100 in a fucking theater. That doesn't take much. I took my daughter to the theater one time to see a movie. $50 just for tickets, and I got her popcorn and we got a drink. $50. Crazy. But I'll pay whatever to see Dawn Day, whatever, in theaters for sure. It says my 40th birthday with a 40th screening a day. Absolutely, hell yeah. That's the way you celebrate right there. Thanks for the ride, lady. A hefty bag monster. Yeah, pretty much. Chin says the Raft and Creepshow scared the shit out of me when I was a kid, just like the Blob remake. Yeah, it is very, very, very much like the Blob. It's like the Blob in a lake. Creepshow 2 is 4K's day one purchase. Absolutely. Sin says, nah, Harrison's is way better. Yeah, I mean, I totally understand. I'm in the minority on that, but just like I said, just me personally, just that song, when I hear it, it just kind of gets stuck into my head, and I can't help it. My says, exciting indeed. Absolutely. Robert, I know I sound like a broken record. Do you have any info about the 990 4K? I don't have any. Like I said, I haven't heard anything here lately. All I know is that it's coming. It's coming. Just stay patient. Stay patient. It's coming. Maya's going to see Day for sure. Chintz is all in on Day. And yeah, Creepshow 4K for sure. Movie collection, absolutely. Just says, because I drive a white, sketchy van for my job. Absolutely. Can't help it. Yeah. Panel van man. You can call me that. It's going to be the name of the channel here. Chin says, Larry doing the tour in the boiler room at the mall this year for Living Dead weekend? He absolutely is. Since I am, it's a stop on every tour. It's worth the money. The boiler, to me, like just seeing the boiler room and the staircase was just like, okay, worth the money. Granny says, definitely going to grab the Creepshow 2 4K, only have the bare bones DVD. Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be, which one? I think there were two different Creepshow DVDs, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I think I have two different ones over there. Can't remember which one you're talking about. It's nice to have all my shit here and just grab it and look at it, but a lot of my Romero adjacent films that I talk about are over there on a different shelf. So, Rick says, Michael Richards played the hitchhiker in that part. No, I don't think it was Michael Richards. I don't think he played that part. Rick says that was before he was a cast member in ABC short-lived SNL version Fridays. Michael Richards, and definitely before he was on Seinfeld. Was it pre-UHF? See, I'm a UHF mark myself. I love UHF. Give me 2 scoops. Suka now. But all right. We're 2 hours into this sucker. It is Mother's Day. Let's pay tribute and honor the great mothers in the Romero world, the Romero universe. We'll start it out here with the mother of all mothers in the Romero universe, Helen Cooper, played by the great Marilyn Eastman, in Night of the Living Dead. That looks a little better. So what can we say? Marilyn Eastman, which the older I get, I don't know, the older I get, the more I find Marilyn Eastman to be super attractive. Like, it's very, like, she was a good looking woman. But, like, when I was younger and I saw her, I was just thought, because I guess she plays the mother, and I was just thought, like, oh, she's very motherly type. So I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm getting older, but yeah, Marilyn Eastman playing Helen Cooper. So just looking at the character and Helen Cooper's probably the ultimate, like, mother in the Romero universe, I would say. And I think her death at the end is one of the greatest scenes in any Romero film ever. I think it's iconic. You know, the mother getting killed by the daughter with the trowel, like, and just people seeing that in 1968 and losing their fucking minds. That, you know, people hadn't seen anything like that, really. And the way that it was done, it was very artsy and very psychedelic almost. It was almost out of place with the rest of the film, where the rest of the film is very almost realistic feeling. It feels kind of like a documentary, but that kill scene for Helen Cooper, it almost feels otherworldly. You know, the audio, the shrieking, this, you know, all that. But just the Helen Cooper character in itself, of course, married to Harry Cooper. Their daughter is bitten. They're down in the cellar. And obviously, she is staying with Harry. They're not a happy couple. I mean, she says it in the film, you know, we may not like living together, but dying together is not going to solve anything. Not the happy married couple, but you kind of get the vibe that they stick together. Because it's the 60s and divorce was not, you know, as, you know, prevalent as it is now, I guess, but also they're sticking together for the you know, the well-being of their daughter, and trying to keep the family unit together. And of course, we're talking 1968, so we're talking about right around the time when the idea of the nuclear family is starting to kind of fall apart. For whatever reason, people have their own thoughts and theories, and people will point to, like, feminism and the rise of feminism and stuff, and in the late 60s and early 70s. And you kind of see that at this time period. You didn't really see a whole lot of, you know, you look at the 50s and people think, like, oh, the 50s, and it's the wife at home, the husband goes to work, comes home, is like, hi, honey, what's for dinner? You know, it's like, I'm going to sit, read my newspaper, smoke my pipe, and you cook, clean, and take care of the babies. And then by the late 60s, that it all kind of changed, and what I loved about these characters, you kind of see the literal breakdown of the family unit. They're the nuclear family that you know, that the country was kind of built on, and in the 50s and the early 60s. And that's kind of reflective of what was going on at the time in the late 60s with Vietnam, and then the rise of the hippies, and, like I said, the rise of feminism and all that. Which George would get into even deeper in Jack's Wife. But, so yeah, I always thought the older you get, the more you kind of see more of this stuff in these characters, and kind of see, like, oh, I was kind of ahead of its time in that way too. And Helen kind of standing up to Harry and saying, like, no, you're going to open the fucking door, like, we're going up, like, you know, she's kind of taking control of the situation, which we've discussed Harry Cooper before, and not, you know, I don't think he's a bad guy, or his heart was in the wrong place necessarily. I mean, he was just trying to protect his family, trying to protect his daughter. But Helen kind of stands up to him, and, you know, to the point where he's like, Helen, get in the cellar, and she's just like, no, I'm staying up here and fighting. And, like, that was kind of the beginning of that, and of women kind of saying, no, I'm not, I'm doing what I feel is right. You know, I'm not taking all of my orders from you anymore, type of thing. So definitely a strong mother character, strong woman, female character in this film. Just definitely a pretty, but like I said, the ending, the way that it all kind of falls apart for them back at this, I mean, the daughter coming back and killing her mother, and then she comes back and gets shot, you know, like that was, you know, impactful shit, back in the day, and still is, very much so in a lot of ways. Let's see. So what do you guys think? What are you thinking? Yeah, man. Larry agrees. Yeah, dude. Marilyn is hot. She was. Like I said, when I was younger, I didn't see it because I guess I only really saw her in this, and I just kind of saw her as like the mom character. But the older you get, and especially like a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, like the photos of that, I'm like, damn, she was. I always kind of fancied myself a Judith Ridley kind of guy, but it's like Marilyn was a pretty good looking woman back in the day. Granny says Marilyn Eastman was randomly in House Guest. Was she really? Oh, dude, her death scene is horrifying. No, poor babe. Yeah. It's heartbreaking. I didn't know she was randomly in House Guest. That's funny as shit. Granny said, I felt like they really downgraded the McKee Anderson in Night 90 playing Helen. Marilyn's performance is really underrated. Yes, McKee in 90 she does a good job, and she does stand up to the Harry Cooper, but she's definitely more not as take charge, where she's kind of, freaking out a little more than Marilyn was as Helen in the original. Where almost Helen in the original is more almost just angry. Like, why am I stuck with this fucking idiot here who's, locked us down in this cellar where there's no radio, there's no food. Like, we don't know what the hell's going on up there, and he's refusing to help anybody. I'm letting him know we're opening the door, like we're going up, So yeah, I agree with that. Steven says you get to drink from the fire. Yeah, okay, we're talking about Stanley Spadowski's Clubhouse now. That's one of the greatest scenes ever. And he says, Marilyn Eastman was hot. Gets my vote as well. Okay, all right, everybody's feeling it. She's a MILF. Let's see, Larry saying, thanks. I live give tours. I've done it for a decade now. Romero stuff is my thing. Yeah, you're the best at it. You are definitely the tour guide for Romero, that's for sure. Yeah, Sam. Harry was henpecked for sure, says Sam. There you go. Okay, yeah, we're all in agreement here, I think. Sense is not to be crass, but Marilyn was a MILF. I agree. Bonnie says tastes change with age. That they do. Yeah, that they do. But we're not here to talk about Marilyn's attractive, but she is an attractive woman. But yeah, I mean, just an iconic, maybe the most iconic mother character in any Romero film, and what a performance from Marilyn Eastman, and just like Grande said, it's like McKee Anderson does a good job, but I don't think it holds a candle to Marilyn. I really don't. So with Night of the Living Dead, Marilyn Eastman, Helen Cooper, we see the look at the disintegration of the nuclear family, if you will. If you want to look at it that way. And then on the other side of that, after that, we got the mother-to-be, the expecting mother, and we're 1970, 1969, 1971. We get There's Always Vanilla, Judith Ridley as Lynn Harris, and There's Always Vanilla, who's a mother-to-be by the end of the film. And, of course, the end of the film kind of plays out in a chase scene between her and George Casana. And when she thinks about going to get an abortion, she ends up getting pregnant with Chris's baby, who's played by Ray Lane, of course. And I think Russo has talked about. I've heard Russo say like that's one of the reasons he thinks that There's Always Vanilla didn't work when it was released, is because it already felt dated. Because the whole idea of getting a what do they call it, a backroom abortion or whatever, was already kind of played out. It was just kind of a thing of the past by the time the movie actually came out. So when people saw it in theaters, which if you guys haven't seen There's Always Vanilla, the movie ends where she's considering getting an abortion. She has to go to this back alley abortion is what they call it. We're all over the place tonight. But she goes to this back alley. She meets this character played by George Casana, who's kind of telling her like, okay, this is what's going to happen. Which is one of the which everybody, if George Costanzo plays the sheriff in Night of the Living Dead, I think everybody knows him best as, but his performance in There's Always Vanilla as just like this grimy, skeevy fucking guy that's like securing these back alley abortions for this quack doctor is really uncomfortable. It's a really uncomfortable scene because he's just so blasé about it. He's just like, all right, now we're gonna, if you can imagine George Costanza's voice, he's like, all right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take you into this back room. You're gonna lay down. We're gonna make a hole. The way he says "make a hole" is always just like, ugh. We're going to make a little hole, and you're going to have yourself a little miscarriage, all right? And now it's nothing to worry about, blah, blah, blah. And he's just kind of going about this like he's, I've done this 1,000 times, and you realize, like, oh, this character probably has done this 100 times. This is probably like a side hustle for him. And it's so out of place in the rest of the film because the rest of the film is very, like, flower people, trippy, like, very nice, you know. But you know, when she decides not to get the abortion and ends up in a chase, she's running away. You know, she decides not to do it, and then eventually, like, her and Chris split up, and you know, Chris really never really. I don't think I have to remember the movie, but I don't think he ever really finds out that she was pregnant. She tells him he was pregnant, but she says she kind of plays it off like, no, I'm not really pregnant. But then she tries to go gets the abortion, doesn't happen. She ends up with another guy, and then you see her at the end. She's got the pregnant belly, and you know it's Chris's and all that. But it just shows. I mean, that's kind of a different way to look. The different version of motherhood. There is like the mother to be, the expecting mother. You know, and the way that, which is still a thing. Like abortion is still a contentious hot topic, and to me like abortion, the debate on abortion. We're talking about every fucking thing tonight. To me, it's one of those that there's no right or wrong stance on it. Like I get people are passionate about it one way or the other, pro-choice, pro-life, whatever. It's one of those battles that's always going to get waged, which is why I think this movie and that scene in particular still holds weight today. Is because it's one of those issues that, like, I can see both sides. Like, I can understand, like, yeah, like, it is kind of killing a baby. But at the same time, it's also a woman's body. It's her body. She should, you know, you should not regulate that in that way. So I can see both arguments. I'm not one way or the other. Like, it's one of those, it's like, I'm totally hands up. Like, I have no say. Like, it's not, I don't really have a real say on it whatsoever. So like that scene, I just think is very well done, very, very passionate, and it just kind of shows especially in the dilemma that she's in with her character and the character of Chris, and just kind of like, you know, she's pregnant with his baby, they live together, but they're not really getting along. They look at the world in two completely different ways. And now she's stuck in this situation. She wants out, but you know, it's a messy situation. So yeah, it kind of takes it from that angle too. But anyway, what are you guys' thoughts on abortion? Are you for it or against? Killing puppies, I'm for it. What do you think? Oh, the old joke. Jen says Harry Cooper was a bastard, and I linked it. Yeah, he was really over the top. Which I love Tim Towles, but. Really over the top in the remake. Sid Ben and Mrs. Cooper should have left together. Ebony and Ivory of the Dead. That'd have been different. Grande says, let those balloons go. Absolutely. Grande says, George Costanza's voice is so distinctive too. You hear him and you can't help but also hear the character he plays at night. Yeah, he's not an actor. I mean, George Costanza was not an actor. He was just a local guy, you know, that, you know, is just perfect for those roles. I don't know. It's just that voice, his deliverance. A lot of the stuff in Night was just ad-libbed by him. He just kind of had like, okay, you're going to talk about they're dead and they're slow moving and all that. And so the whole line of him where he says, you know, oh yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up. Like that was just ad-lib. Like that was just him. And it's brilliant. It's one of the most iconic lines in that whole movie. Since as sadly back alley abortions have returned to some states, we are devolving politically. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, it's one of those issues that I can see both sides. Like I don't really have a dog in the fight one way or the other. think there's, what was the, Bill Burr, I think has a thing on it. It's like, yeah, if you have the cake batter in a pan, and it's like, yeah, like that's not a cake, but if you leave it in the oven long enough, it does become a cake, type of thing. I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one for sure. Ed says Judith was cute. Her acting just took me out of it. Dirty Dancing had the backdoor abortion angle. Don't forget. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Judith. This was kind of Judith Ridley's last role, and after this, she was just kind of like, yeah, I'm not an actor. I don't really want to act. But I never really had an issue with it. She's not, Meryl Streep or anything, but she has a good look, and I thought she has her charming moments in the film for sure. Yeah, Grande, they're dead. They're all messed up. Works in the context of both films. Yeah, he could have used that in the same thing. Robert says abortion is murder. Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to it. And I think that's why it's still to this day like one of the most contentious things amongst people for sure. Grande says, oh shit, Judith was beautiful, man. I think she could have been a huge star. I know most bash her acting, but she definitely had screen presence. That's undeniable. Yeah, definitely had screen, especially in this. Yeah, I could agree. But yeah, she just kind of was like, yeah, acting's not for me. She ended up marrying Russ Streiner after this film, and then she was just kind of like, yeah, I'm not an actress. I don't think she did anything after that ever. She just kind of moved on with her life. But yeah, just great look. Just perfect look. Rick says, well, you're right. Michael Richards was not in The Hitchhiker in the 1987 Creepshow 2. It was actually Mr. Tom Savini himself that played the doomed hitchhiker. No, Savini plays the creep in Creepshow 2. I'm trying to think of the guy's name that actually plays the hitchhiker in Creepshow 2. Tom Wright, I think, is the name of the guy. Tom Wright. Am I right? Somebody knows it. Since says, I want my niece to have all the freedom she should have. Steven says, Mrs. Cooper got jungle fever. Getting goofy. Yeah, that's right. Tom Wright. Tom Wright was the hitchhiker. Tom was also one of the black guys in Weekend at Bernie's too. There you go. Grant says Tom Wright was also in Tales from the Hood. He comes back from the dead and kills all the cops. All right, I do remember hearing that as well. But yeah, I mentioned it a second ago. Talking about feminism and the rise of women's rights in the early 70s, and starting with Helen Cooper standing up to her husband, to the rights of Judith Ridley's character here, and her back alley abortion experience. I don't know. But moving on, we can talk about, of course, Jan White as Joni Mitchell and Jack's wife, a.k.a. Season of the Witch. And I think I've actually heard Penn Jillette. There was a documentary that was supposed to come out years ago called Dead On or something like that by filmmaker Rusty Nails. And there was a trailer for it and everything. And I remember being so pumped. And we're talking like 20 years ago. I think it was called Dead On or something like that. But I remember seeing the trailer and being so pumped for it because it was literally a documentary like covering George's entire career, like everything. And there's a quote in there from Penn Jillette himself, who I remember hearing him say, like, Season of the Witch is one of the most important films in the feminist movement in the early 70s. And I was like, wow, that's high praise. But it's kind of true. I mean, it's very... Now, is it pro-feminism? You be the judge. Like, I think George was very pro-feminist, but I think that this film, there's definitely two sides of the same coin there in terms of where her character's at as a mother in comparison to where Helen was in Night. Whereas her daughter is still young, is still a child. Lynn and Vanilla, her child hasn't been born yet. Where Joni's character in this, her daughter is now grown and is independent and moving on and on her own, and and doesn't really need her mother anymore. And that's kind of one of the driving factors to Jan White's character in Jack's wife, of why she starts to look for other things, whether it's new pleasures or, witchcraft or whatever takes a hold of her boredom. Um, and I think it's also insinuated in the Jack's Wife cut, if I'm not mistaken, if not the screenplay, that she actually had a miscarriage at one point and couldn't have kids again after that, so she only had the one. So that was like one thing that always kind of haunted her. You can see it at the beginning in the opening credit sequence when you see the baby just kind of out in the field, and she walks by it, and the baby's just there. I think that's what that was. I feel like I remember hearing something about that, but yeah. So I mean, this character, Jan White's character in Season of the Witch, is kind of at the other sport, whereas Lynn is kind of the expecting mother to be. Joni is at the end of her motherhood. Her daughter no longer needs her, and her husband's kind of detached, focused on work, and there's the whole thing, and that's why she kind of ventures out onto her own and is kind of done being just the obedient housewife. She wants to get out, try new things. She gets sucked into the idea of magic, and she wants the kind of the hippie lifestyle or whatever, which I think is funny, and I think there is, and why I said it's kind of a two sides of the same coin type of thing in terms of is it pro-feminism, is it anti-feminism, because it does kind of say like this woman she's in a position to be at home and dabble in this witchcraft and do all the things that she's doing because her husband does go to work and is she does have this cush kind of life, where she has the house and everything's taken care of, the bills are being paid, and she's just kind of like that's why she's the bored housewife. It's because she just goes and buys the groceries, washes the cars, does the chores. And that's why you get the opportunity to be the bored housewife, is because you get to stay at home while your husband goes and has work trips and stuff like that, which I think is funny. Like when she goes and buys all of the witchcraft materials and stuff, like she goes and buys the book and all the cauldrons and all that. And it is funny. I don't know if anybody picks up on it, but when she does pay for it, she lays down a credit card, which is kind of funny. Like she's trying to go back to this like. What's the word? Medieval almost type of witchcraft and conjuring spells and shit. But she's using an American Express card to pay for it, type of thing. It's kind of funny, like the suburban housewife thing. It's like, oh, I'll pay for it with this credit card. And I think the idea that of course, at the beginning of the film, in her dream sequence, she's being collared and led to this cage and stuff like that in her dream. But at the end of the film, when she joins the coven, or coven, because coven sounds like oven, when she joins the coven, she gets hooked, the fucking the collar, and she's kind of right back where she was, but this time literally, but kind of on her own terms at the same time. I don't know, man. Jack's Wife, Season of the Witch, is one of those films that I appreciate more and more every time I watch it, and I see more and more to it. It's definitely not everyone's cup of tea, and I think even George was a big fan of it for many years, and then was kind of cooled off on it after watching it. Oh, power outage. There we go, and we're back. But it's one I just like more and more. There's definitely more and more to it that I see as it goes on. And it, like I said, it is kind of the end of the nuclear. It is that period where feminism's taken over, and there's some weird moments in this in terms of the motherhood aspect. I mean, the scene where she's masturbating on the bed while listening to her daughter have sex in the other room is kind of, but it's like one of those things. It's like that's very taboo. Very taboo for George to put that on screen, but it does say something about where her mindset is and why she would be attracted to something like becoming a witch, or and she wants to seduce this young guy played by Ray Lane, she's at a different level. She's at a different area than the rest of the mothers on here. But I love her performance in it. I think she does a great job. I don't really know what else she'd done outside of this, or what she has done outside of this, but I like it more and more every time I see it. It definitely, like I said, a lot of people look at it as very pro-feminist, but I don't know. I kind of get the vibe the more times I watch it. I'm like, oh, but there's definitely more to it. There's definitely some more layers to it. And you get that it's perfect at the end. The end of the film ends where she thinks she's lived, because she ends up killing. Spoiler alert! I don't want to. I won't say anything. But the end of it is definitely, she thinks she's liberated herself from this life of a poor housewife stuck at home under. It's called Jack's wife. Her only identity is that she's Jack's wife. Like she's just the wife. And at the end, she feels like she's liberated herself from all that, and still at the end, she's still, oh yeah, that's Jack's wife. And it's like, that's how the film ends. So like, oh fuck, I'm always gonna, like I'm still stuck as that. I don't know. I think there's a lot of brilliance to that film, and I think George always talked about wanting to remake it, and I think it's definitely one that he definitely could have used a little more time and a little more money to really flesh out what George wanted to do with it. And it is the first of George's films that he wrote. He co-wrote Night of the Living Dead, but it's his first, Jack's Wife is George's first solo written film, so it's all from George, and I think it's a very mature film for a young filmmaker to make. Which, I mean, George wasn't young. I mean, he was in his 30s at the time, but from a point of view and a perspective, I think it's worth checking out for sure. Let's see what you guys saying. It's saying Jan White had the best eyes. I would have loved to have seen her do more. Yeah, like I said, I don't know what else she done after this. She may have done some TV stuff here and there, maybe, but it's just kind of, it's really the only credit that I'm super familiar with, unfortunately. Granny says, I love how avant-garde Season of the Witch is. It's definitely the most experimental George ever got. It has so much to say, too, but I could never quite make up my mind about all of its themes. Yeah. It is, it is a lot. Like, there is a lot to take in there, and I think trying to promote it, they didn't really know how to promote this movie. They still don't. Like, it's not a horror film, really. Like, there's some horror elements to it, but it's not really a horror film. But it's also not because, I mean, it was released as Hungry Wives originally. Like, that's how they tried to make it seem like a softcore porn, but it's not that either at all. They wouldn't just, and Jack's Wife was the original shooting title, but I don't think they ever released it as Jack's Wife. I think it was originally released as Hungry Wives. It flopped, and then it got a re-release after Dawn of the Dead as Season of the Witch, George A. Romero's Season of the Witch. And people just didn't really know what to do with it, and I don't blame them. That's right. Ray Lane as the boy toy. Which, again, one of my all-time favorite scenes is the scene where he's turning on Anne Muffley's character. It's like, he, quote-unquote, which is an old term for the young folks out there. Turning on is, not... But he tears a cigarette and pretends it's a joint and gets her to think that she's, smoking a joint. Okay, here we are. Granny says, and the credit card has George's name on it. Oh, does it? I've never really noticed that. I always thought it was weird that they made a point to show the American Express. That's cool. I didn't realize that. And the guy that's actually working at the counter is actually Paul McCullough, who wrote the original screenplay for The Crazies and did the soundtracks for a lot of John Russo stuff. Night 90 did the theme for that, or the original score for Night 90. So that's pretty cool too. Something to keep an eye on. Robert says, I personally don't need feminism to tell me that men and women are equal. I just don't understand. Well, I try not to get too political on here, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like there's some of that in Season of the Witch. I think people may perceive Season of the Witch as being a strictly like pro-feminist film, but I do think there's a lot of, it's almost like, oh yeah, I mean, it's good in certain ways, but it's also, it's also bad in other ways. I don't know. Since says toughest thing about Jack's Wife is the dark cinematography, not a great looking movie. Yeah, it's definitely rough. It definitely looks, which I will say the Arrow release of that, the Blu-ray release, is the best it's ever looked. It still looks rough, but to me, it's closer to look. It looks closer to like a Martin or something like that. It's definitely a little rough and grainy, but that Arrow is the best way to see that for sure. Granny says, question for you, Alpha. Which do you prefer overall, season or vanilla? I prefer vanilla. There's always vanilla. I loved that film the first time I saw it. Season of the Witch has taken a while to really grow on me. Because the first time I saw it, I was just like, I don't get it. I don't like it. It ain't for me. Because like I said, the first time I saw it, I rented it on VHS on that old Vista release. And it looked like shit. You couldn't hardly hear or see or tell what the hell was going on with it. But over time, the better quality versions that I've seen of it, and the more I watch it, and the more I kind of, especially the Arrow, you can kind of hear it and see it and kind of take it in for what it's supposed to be. I like it more and more every time I see it. Every time I watch it, I like it more and more. But There's Always Vanilla is just one that I loved the first time I saw it, and I still love to this day. And it's, it's not a lot of people's favorites, but, I dig it. I like Vanilla quite a bit. Always have. Rick says you most likely was totally wrong on who played the hitchhiker. Yeah, it was Tom Wright, because I forgot his name, but he was supposed to be at Living Dead Weekend last year and had to drop out, unfortunately, at the last second. I think a lot of people were looking forward to meeting him because they love his character in that film. So it's saying IMDb has Jan White in only 2 other movies. So yeah, so she didn't do very much. It was just kind of an in and out thing, which there's an interview with her on pretty much every release that's ever been done. DVD, Blu-ray, whatnot, with Jan White from like probably 2003, 2004. I would say 2004. Which it's been a while since I've watched that. I'd go back and watch that. Granny says, I agree, and the longer Arrow cut is really the only way to watch that movie. I always find myself going back to it. Yeah, the Arrow version has the Jack's Wife cut, which is longer. It is a little long, but it's the most complete version of George's vision, for sure. Granny says, did you know the guy who voices the creep was also in Shivers and Rabid? He was the lead doctor in Rabid, and I was dumbfounded when I found out. Oh, interesting. I had never put those together, but I'll have to check that out, because I love Shivers and Rabid. It was also, what was he in Shivers? The guy who voices the creep. Oh, are you talking about Joel Silver, I think is his name. Is that who you're talking about? Because I feel like I've heard that before. Joel Silver, I think that's his name. I don't know. Somebody look that up for me and double check on that. But I think I know who you're talking about. I think I have heard that before, actually, because he has that deep. Because I had to go back and listen and mentally picture the voice of the creep in Creepshow 2, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds like the dude. But double check me, guys. Double check me. But while y'all are doing that, let's talk about we'll do 2 for 1 here. We'll try to skim this down so we can try to keep it at around 3 hours tonight. But it's 2 characters that are kind of in the same situation. Maybe 2 different fates. One we don't know, one we do know for sure. We're talking about Lane Carroll in The Crazies, who is pregnant and dealing with a catastrophic reality where all hell is breaking loose in the small town of Evans City. And of course, our cover girl and our favorite mommy-to-be, cigarette smoking Galen Ross as great Francine Parker in Dawn of the Dead. Two expecting mothers in a world of chaos and destruction and the end of the world. What is it like? And I find it interesting. George has used pregnant characters a lot in his films. I realized doing this, I was like, God damn, it's like the Crazies. There's a pregnant girl, and Dawn. There's a pregnant girl. What is it about that? And there is something inherently horrific. I mean, just even when the world is fine and everything's in order, and like bringing a new life, bringing a child into this world is a scary feat because you don't know, like, is the child going to be okay? Like, is the baby going to come out all right? Are they going to grow up? What world are they going to grow up in? So if you're in a world where the dead are coming back to life and killing people, or if you're in a world where people are, either going incurably mad or, or killing each other, like, it's not a good world to bring a human being into. And I find it interesting that George decided in both The Crazies and Dawn of the Dead to make the main female leads pregnant, because I do think it adds a different level of suspense. And I don't want to ruin anything for people that haven't seen it. I feel like everybody's seen Dawn of the Dead, but if you haven't seen The Crazies, I definitely recommend checking it out. But Lane Carroll's performance in The Crazies, I always liked it. I always thought she plays, her character is very different than Francine, than Galen Ross's character in Dawn, for sure. Like, Fran and Dawn, she wants to be one of the boys. She's like, I'm still fighting. Whereas Lane Carroll's character in The Crazies, Judy is her name. I forget that sometimes. I always want to call her Lynn because Judith Ridley plays Lynn and there's always Vanilla and vice versa. Lynn, Lane, whatever. But she's more of like she has the GI boyfriend, the former Green Beret. She's and he's protecting her the whole time. She really doesn't do much other than, protect me, type of thing. And it feels like George and Galen's talked about this when she took the role of Fran in Dawn of the Dead. She wanted her character, she didn't want to be falling and screaming and all that. She didn't want to play the typical damsel in distress role that kind of Lane Carroll plays here, unfortunately. Or not even unfortunately, but it's just that's who her character was. She was just a nurse, she's not there to fight, And if your boyfriend's a Green Beret, it's like, hey, my baby daddy a Green Beret, like, I don't need to do much. I just need to stick with him. But of course, her fate at the end, she kind of, succumbs to the bug, and that always made me wonder too, like the idea of like, oh, does the baby get the bug as well? Like, what would that be like? Like a newborn baby with the crazy bug, which newborns are crazy as fuck anyway when they're born. So it's like, well, you really probably couldn't tell, but. I always thought that was kind of interesting. What would have happened if the baby would have been born? Which, spoiler alert, I don't know. Sorry, guys. So two very different types of character. Where Fran is almost pregnant, but she's just like Lane. Like Judy is pregnant and excited. She's like, oh, it's the baby. What are we gonna name the baby? And Fran is just kind of like, oh, fuck, I'm pregnant. Which, I mean, yeah, the world's coming to an end. The dead are coming back to life and taking over the world and killing. People are dying left and right. And it's like, now's not the time to start a family. And I've gone into my theories on the backstory between her and Flyboy before, where I feel maybe he knocked her up accidentally, and now they're just kind of tethered together because of the baby, where I don't feel like she really has that same emotional connection to Steven as he does to her. I feel like he's more in love with her than she is with him. So there's that dynamic at play, and of course she's dealing with, and I think it's funny, not funny, but I mean it's that scene where she's laying in bed and she's just kind of looking at the magazines, and then she gets up and just kind of walks around. She's starting to look real pregnant, and she's kind of got her hands on her back, and she just looks like, fuck, what am I doing? And I feel like that's a lot of the reason why she's just like, what have we done to ourselves? Like, why we need to get out of here. Like this, I'm not raising a baby in a shopping mall. I don't know. I just find that scene not funny, but just kind of interesting the way that it was kind of put there. But yeah, that kind of dawned on me when I was putting this little list of photos together, I was like, oh, Lane Carroll in The Crazies is pregnant in a world where the world's kind of falling apart. And Galen's character's kind of pregnant in Dawn of the Dead, so it's like, well, not kind of, she's pregnant in Dawn of the Dead, but so I just found it interesting. I was like, George really kind of liked putting pregnant women in these situations and kind of like, what would they do? How would they fend off? And it's two very different portrayals of what a pregnant woman would be like in the end of the world. And I've often wondered, like, what happened to, to Fran's baby at the end of Dawn. Of course, they just kind of fly off into the sunset, but, Peter knows how to do abortions. Does he know how to do, does he know how to, birth a child? I don't know. But that's always fan theory stuff. But yeah, that's just one thing that stood out. I always just kind of thought of that, realized that. I just thought that was interesting. Yep, that's right. Grande Joe Silver. That's right. He's the guy that eats and shivers. That's eating the sandwich and it's like, you gonna eat your pickle. Good, awesome voice. Larry says Lane was a sweet and interesting lady. I was just getting to know her and about her interesting life right before she passed away, just right before she was about to appear with us at Living Dead Weekend, Evans City 2019. I remember you telling me that story, and I vaguely remember that when that happened. Because I remember thinking, because I guess this was before I actually made the trip to Pittsburgh for the first time. I remember thinking, like, holy shit, like, Lane Carroll's going to be there. That's a really big get. That's really cool. Because I don't think I'd ever seen her do a convention before. So I remember thinking that and was just like, oh man, I'd love to go and meet Lane. But and then finding out that she passed away, what, like a week or something, like right before the event. I was like, damn, that's terrible. That really, kind of sucked. But that's right, Larry. It would have been her first convention appearance. I was pretty sure, like, I'd never seen her do one before. So I always thought that was cool. So yeah, just unfortunate circumstances around that for sure. Bonnie's saying, I can't imagine having a baby in these circumstances. Fear upon fear. Absolutely. Like I said, having a baby in normal circumstances is very terrifying and fearful. So, add the end of the world to that and forget about it. Larry said, I asked her several times over the years before 2019 to be a guest. She always declined. Missed opportunity. Oh, that sucks. I wonder why she declined and why she finally decided to do it. That's interesting. I think a lot of these people, especially like somebody like Lane Carroll, is just like, who am I? I was in one movie that nobody really talks about or knows, but I feel like a lot of these people don't really understand, like, there are, crazy ass fans like us, like all of us in here right now at, almost midnight on a Sunday talking about this shit, that would just go out of our way to, travel hundreds of miles to meet these people and just to be like, oh shit, you were in The Crazies. Like, that's amazing. But yeah, that unfortunate, definitely a missed opportunity for sure. Hey, Stezio, what's going on, man? Says, hi all, just got home a bit ago. What did I miss? Well, but you've missed a lot, man. We've fucking we've been on cigarettes, marijuana, abortion. We've covered every hot topic you can cover tonight, I think. So, but good to see you, my man. Thanks for stopping in. Justin says, yo, do you have the Blairwood Entertainment Blu-ray of Day of the Dead? I own it. It's amazing. The Blairwood Entertainment. I don't think I do. The only ones a day that I have Blu-ray-wise are the original Anchor Bay release. I have the Arrow window box release and the Scream Factory Blu-ray of Day of the Dead. Those are the ones that I have of Day. Until we get that 4K, by God. Since his Joe Silver, I remember Robert Silverman more as the guy in Scanners, as the crazy artist in other DC films. That's right. Yeah, Joe Silver's the one, he got the very deep voice. Got the very deep voice, that guy. Yeah, I thought that was him. But yeah, so we got two women bringing babies into the end of the world. And Elaine Carroll is Judy. And, of course, the great Galen Ross is Fran. But this is an interesting one that I want to talk about, because she kind of plays the same character in two different Romero films. And that's Iva Jean. Well, Iva Jean, I believe it's pronounced Saraceni, I believe. She plays Helen Dean in Knight Riders in this photo here. Of course, the mother of Patricia Tallman, and the wife of old Wooly, Jim Baffico in Knight Riders. But I've thought of her character, she's an interesting portrayal of motherhood that hadn't really been shown yet, as the battered wife, the battered mother, the mother who has lost the respect of her children, which I find interesting. And I mean, it's not a huge aspect of Knight Riders by any means, but she kind of plays the same kind of character in Creepshow. She's, of course, Joe Hill's mom, and married to Tom Atkins in the wraparound story, and she's just kind of shut up. This is what this is what fathers are for, type of thing. But her role in Knight Riders, I always thought was really an interesting one, because it kind of shows, because Julie Dean, Julie Dean, what you doing riding around on them motorcycles? I love that scene. That's so fucking funny. But you can see, like, she's kind of running away from home. She's kind of rebelling against her parents, which her father, of course, played by Jim Baffico, is kind of playing, Wooly on an off day. I mean, he's just kind of the biggest asshole drunk, just passing out at the, at the show. And the mother's just kind of just dragging the cooler around. And, of course, here you see she's got the black eye. She's obviously being abused by Baffico's character. And it's at a point now where her daughter has grown up. Julie has grown up to the point where she's seen her mother just never stand up for herself, never fight back, or she's just always just kind of taking it. And it just kind of shows that's a real thing too. It's like if your child witnesses, the abuse like that, where you never stand up for yourself, the child loses the respect for her mother and is now wild. And I'm going off with this group of bikers, and we're going on the road, and I'm out of here. I'm running away, and So I thought, it's like I said, it's not a big storyline or anything in Knight Riders really, but it is something interesting there when it comes to talking about motherhood and Romero's portrayal of motherhood in the various ways in his films, and that this is the mother who has lost the respect of her child, and now the child is going off and making bad decisions. So I find it interesting, and I just think it's interesting she kind of played the same character in Creepshow with with Tom Atkins in kind of the Baffico role. So just wanted to shout out Iva Jean there. I think she does a great job in this. I think it's one of the most heartbreaking scenes in Knight Riders when Julie kind of walks out and she doesn't say anything. She doesn't say, no, you're not leaving, or she doesn't stand up for it at all. She's just kind of like, okay, I guess you're leaving. And then as soon as she leaves, she runs off into the kitchen and breaks down. Like, it's pretty rough. Like, you could tell, like, this woman's just been beaten down and doesn't know what to say, doesn't know how to stand up, or say, stand up for herself, or and that's a real thing. I mean, I've seen that. Like, I've had friends, growing up when I was younger, I'd see friends with just mothers that they just did not respect, and the mothers would just never say no. They would just say, all right, you guys want some, you guys are going off to drink, all right, good luck. Like, my mom would never do that. My mom would just, I still to this day, like, my mom, I saw her today, of course, and then she got on to me because my parents will watch the stream, I guess every week. I don't know. They do it in secret. They don't comment or anything, but they'll watch, and then they'll because I see it when I go over there, and I'm like, who's been watching this? But she was like, oh yeah, you need to stop saying that F word so much. I'm just like, oh yes, ma'am, sorry, I don't know. It's like, oh, now I'm a little like, oh, okay, sorry. But yeah, there's so many mothers and parents in general that just kind of give up, and the kids just lose respect for them. Like I said, it's not a bad thing, saying that they're bad people. It's just like that they're just battered, beaten down. And I think she does a great job portraying that in Night Riders. Let's see where we're at here. Ed says, y'all like Ivagene? Ed says, leaving the smoking to the side, I didn't feel the same sympathy for Fran. I felt bad for Judy. Plus, you can kind of argue that Fran was even, forget that Fran was even pregnant as the film goes on. Yeah. She's not really holding it. I mean, unless by the end, when she's up, while the bikers are breaking in, she's just kind of up there, just kind of pregnant and alone. But yeah, for the most part, she's just kind of, which is, kind of the idea. She's just kind of like, yeah, I'm pregnant, but like reluctantly. She feels very like reluctantly pregnant. Whereas Judy's like kind of looking forward to it, and she's already kind of got a name. And the ending, like I said, I don't want to spoil it for people, but the ending is really heartbreaking between her and, Will McMillan's character. So it's two different looks at women who are pregnant dealing with the end of the world, and I found that interesting. Larry says, you said I was named her. Okay, awesome. Saraceni, I like it. She's done other stuff. She's been in some other stuff. I was looking at her IMDb earlier. I can't think of what it was off the top of my head, but she's been in some named stuff. She's had quite a bit of a career, actually. It says Blairwood did that god-awful Day 2 film. Oh, Day of the Dead. What was that? Bloodlines, let me guess. Day of the Dead Bloodlines. I think that was it. Since says Romero didn't shy away from realistic yet tragic characters, another strength of his. Yeah, and if you guys have noticed, like all of these different characters, mother-wise, they're different. They're not just a typical like they're all different. They all have their own different ways of doing things. And now we got the battered mother, I guess. But yeah, and the next two coming up are two extremely different types of mothers. Hey, what's up, Brandon? Brandon Salisbury stopping by the 3-hour mark. Good to see you, my man. Good evening. Just now coming in here. How's everyone this night? We're doing well. Like I said, it's been a wild night. We've been kind of chatting and talking about a little bit of everything. So it's been fun. It's been a fun one. You said, shout out to my mother for getting me into horror films. It was because of her I was introduced to Romero, Carpenter, etc. That's really cool. I know Will. I know his mom was a big horror fan. He lost his mother last year, actually, and I know he's told me stories about her, and that's how he kind of discovered horror too. And it's funny, like I was thinking about this today. I was like, Dawn of the Dead, like when I first rented Dawn of the Dead, my mom was the first one that I watched it with. Like I watched it by myself the first night, and the next day, like we were just at home, and my mom was like, "Oh, let's watch that movie you rented." I'm like, "All right, of course." So like, yeah, I can always think my mom was the first person, because my mom always kind of did like mysteries and horror and stuff like that. So she was kind of the first. She was the first person I watched Dawn of the Dead with. So. Since said, did your parents chastise you for our majorette stream? No, my mom just just let me know. Ease up on the F word a little bit. Stesio says, my mom, now 93. Oh, wow. That's cool. No, who let me watch Night of the Living Dead on Bob Wilkins' Creature Features in 1972 when I was 7. It scared the crap out of me, but cemented my love of horror films. Very cool. Wow, 93. To be so lucky, like 93. That's crazy. I'd love to be 93. People say that all the time. It's like, oh, I don't want to be old. Like, I want to die young. It's like, fuck that. I want to live as long as I want. Like, as long as I can. Like, I don't care. Keep me going as long as you can keep me going. Life's pretty cool sometimes, man. Yeah, since a longtime friend saw Don because of his mom. Yeah, man. Moms are pretty cool. So, of course, the next one here on the list, which you talked about a little bit earlier. Let's talk a little bit about Joyce Van Patten and Dorothy Mann in Monkey Shines. And I love this performance. And like I said, I just watched Monkey Shines again for the first time in probably a year or so, just last night. And like I said, every time I watch it, I'm like, well, this is a really good movie. You know, it is a really well-made film, and George did a good job with it. But I do love Joyce Van Patten's performance in this because she's playing the mom. She's playing the helicopter mom. Because Alan, Jason Begay's character, Alan, ends up, you know, at the beginning of the film, you can see he's very independent. Like, he's going to school, going to college, living on his own, got his own life going, you know, runs every day in great shape. You know, he's got his shit together. And then when the accident happens and he becomes a quadriplegic, his mom kind of sees this as an opportunity. And it's funny because even at the beginning of the film, when he was first coming home from the hospital, she's kind of throwing a party. It's like, oh, it's going to be a celebration, you know, which is, you kind of think like, oh, okay, like they're celebrating that he's finally getting to come home. That's cool. But I feel like in her mind, she's like, oh, it's a celebration. Like I get to be mom again. She's the helicopter parent who doesn't know how to let go and sees this opportunity as an opportunity to baby her baby again. You know, and she kind of relishes in it. She ends up quitting her job and selling her house and is going to move in to take care of him. And of course, you can see in this photo, and he's getting sponge bath. You know, the character of Alan's just kind of like not having it. Like, just like he's getting really annoyed with his mother. And of course, the mother is kind of played as kind of a villain in this, but not really. She's just, you know, the overbearing mother a little bit. Like, she wants, you know, to take care of everything. And she even sees, like, when Melanie, the character of Melanie, begins the love interest there between her and Alan, like, you can see she looks at that as a threat, and she wants, you know, she hangs up on her, and she, you know, she's that type of mother. And it's kind of a fucked up thing, but those mothers definitely exist. I've seen so many of those, what they call helicopter parents now. I see those all the time. The ones that are just like overbearing, hovering, like, and you get the feeling that this character, the Dorothy, the Mrs. Mann character, you get the feeling that she's just kind of been like kind of lost. Like, she's not married. She's just kind of by herself. She's kind of been lost ever since she lost her only son. And he's kind of grown up, and, you know, the empty nester thing, you know. And it's kind of fucked up, but I feel like she kind of takes not joy, but she's kind of excited to be able to take care of her little boy again. And it drives him to the point, of course, where he becomes resentful of her, and she becomes resentful of him because he wants to be independent and doesn't want to be babied anymore by his mommy. And of course that leads to her demise. But spoiler alert. So yeah, I think it's a very interesting character. It's a very different type, like, again, a different archetype of what a motherhood is in these films. And I think she does a fantastic job. Of course, I think she's had quite a few roles, quite a career, acting career. I don't know if she's still, if anybody wants to check me on that, I don't know if she's still alive or not. I'd hate to say one way or the other and not know for sure, but Joyce Van Patten, really, really entertaining role in this, I'll say that. And then I'll go ahead, and since we're past the 3-hour mark, like I said, you got the overbearing helicopter mom here, but then I think, in my opinion, the best mother in any Romero film that we can end this with, the best mother in any of his films, is Amy Madigan in The Dark Half. The strongest, she's the mother of all mothers. Like, Helen Cooper's great, love Helen, but Amy kind of keeps it together because she's dealing with a lot of shit. And she reminds me the most of the moms that I've ever known in my life. And I'll tell you why. So in The Dark Half, Amy Madigan is playing Liz Beaumont, the wife of Thad Beaumont / George Stark. And in the film, throughout the whole film, she's kind of taking care of these twins. They're young, newborn, I guess not newborn, toddler twins, I guess you can call them. And through the whole movie, all this shit's happening, like Thad's, freaking out. George Stark's coming back to life and killing everybody that he knows. And throughout the whole film, like almost every scene, she's dealing with the babies. She's got one twin on one arm, one twin on the other. She's trying to the point where at one point she's just like, "Will you shut the fuck up?" Like the babies are crying and she just kind of loses it. She spazzes out, which happens, And to me, like, she's just like the ultimate mom, and just like the most badass mom in any of these movies, because she's taking care of not only her twins, but she's also taking care of, she's having to deal with the two other twins, the George Stark and Thad Beaumont character. So she's dealing with so much, and yet she's still trying to keep it all together, trying with her kids. I don't know. I just like that resonates with me because those are the type of moms that I always grew up with. It's like we're here, like she's there taking care of the kids, feeding them, trying to make sure they're taken care of while the daddy is out dealing with his bullshit, dealing with his evil twin. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of, I just thought that was kind of funny when I was watching it, because I watched The Dark Half again here today earlier. And as I was watching, I was just like, man, like Amy Madigan's character, like I always thought like Amy Madigan's character when I was watching was just kind of like, she's there, but she's just always kind of taking care of kids. But it is like, I don't know, kind of profound to me, like on Mother's Day watching it and kind of realizing like, oh yeah, like that's the ultimate, like that's what mothers do. Like while, while the father is out fucking around doing, Thad Beaumont's doing all his goofy shit, like writing the books and fighting, trying to figure out who's killing everybody. Like she's still just there, like while everything's going to hell in a handbasket, like she's still got to take care of the kids. And like those are that's what, like when I think of like mothers on Mother's Day, like that, those are the type of women I think of, the ones who are, always there to take care of the children and will do anything to protect them, that type of thing. So I just thought that was, I guess it never really dawned on me until I was watching it today, the whole thing with like she's dealing with twins while also having to deal with her husband and his evil twin. So she's just got, twins are bad enough, like twins are tough, if you have newborn twins, but you also are dealing with newborn twins as well as the evil twin of the long lost evil twin of your husband. I just think I just thought that was cool. But yeah, I just, to me, Amy Madigan gets a salute. She's the mother of all mothers in the Romero universe, in my opinion, is Liz Beaumont. But yeah, so happy Mother's Day to everybody out there watching. For all the mothers out there that'll be watching after the fact, the mothers that are watching now. But yeah, I don't know. I thought of that today. I was just like, oh, because again, The Dark Half is just one of those films that I'm just not, I don't like, it's not like one that I go back to a whole lot. But I guess just watching it on Mother's Day, knowing that I was watching her character a little closer and just kind of seeing like her performance. And I'm just like, oh, wow, I get it now. Like that's. And I kind of feel like George maybe felt that way with his career and Christine, because Christine, like I love the behind the scenes photos on Day of the Dead. You see George working, and you see Christine kind of taking care of the kids. She's always got one of the babies in her arms. She's and that's kind of it's like I said, it's like Christine kind of stepped back from her roles and helping George make his films to take care of the kids while George was still kind of dealing with all of the shit that he had to deal with on the set, Christine is in this as one of the nannies. She has a small role in The Dark Half, but I kind of feel like the Amy Madigan character was maybe, just my theory, just kind of George's tribute to Christine, I guess, as a mother a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too far into that, but that's kind of how I felt. But what are you guys thinking? We're past the 3-hour mark. It's been fun. Been a good night. Had a lot of fun talking about a lot of crazy shit. But let me see, where was I at here? So I think Chance was asking, what do you think happened to Dr. Berman, Dr. Foster Givens, and everyone else in the WGON news station after they went off the air in Dawn of the Dead? I thought of that, and I thought of some different scenarios. I think as any fan does. I feel like Dr. Foster, just my theory, I feel like he would have been the type to, He would have been the type to, I think, who would have just kind of ended it. Like, I don't think he would have fought too hard. I think he kind of knew that the writing was on the wall at the beginning of that film. So I don't feel like he would have lasted too long. Givens would probably didn't last too long. Berman, that's an interesting one because he was, defiant. He didn't want to believe. He was kind of like, in denial almost of what was actually going on. So he probably, probably didn't stand too much of a chance either. But actually, Givens, I don't know. Givens was a wild card. He was kind of like a ferret, just kind of frantically running around, worried about the ratings. So I don't know what his destiny had in store for him after they went off the air that night. But hey, their responsibility was finished. Since says Joyce Van Patten had an oddly sexualized role in the late 70s hostage movie. Interesting. I don't see her as that in Monkey Shines, that's for sure. Joyce Van Patten in Grown Up says Gilf. Oh, I've never seen Grown Up, so I didn't know she was in that, but that's interesting. Because I don't find her too attractive. I don't put her in the Marilyn Eastman category for sure, but Since says his mom needed a bogey to keep her company, leave the kid alone. Yeah, that's right. Bonnie says she's still living. Okay, that's good to hear. Good. It's saying JVP played the overbearing grandma on the Bobcat Goldthwait series Unhappily Ever After. I think her heart was in the right place in Monkey Shines. Yeah, she does a great job. That definitely does. I mean, I love that performance. I mean, she does a great job. And it's one of those performances where she's so nice and so like, oh, Alan, oh, let me help you. And you're just like, oh, she's just trying to be nice. But you can definitely see how that could just totally get under your fucking skin. And then when she turns at the end and she just becomes like this just bitchy, like, oh, you don't need me anymore, Alan? Well, all right. And then she slaps, like, how do you get away with that? You can't slap a fucking quadriplegic in a movie. Not just once, but just like fucking slaps the shit out of him. Like, that's, no. Like, so she does that nice turn. And one other thing I want to mention too in that is that she does a great job, which I don't know if it was her choice or if it was just a George thing, but like when she's in the bathtub at the end of her time in that movie, when she's in the bathtub, like a lot of actresses and stuff would probably just be in the bathtub in makeup and still looking okay. But she looks like a woman taking a bath. Like she's got the shit on her face and makeup's all off and she just looks worn down, Like I was like, oh, that takes balls. Like a lot of actresses wouldn't want to show themselves in that light, but yeah, she had the balls to do it. So shout out to her. Ed's saying Liz had the right balance of loving mom and kick-ass mom. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Let's see, Larry says the Beaumont house is only 10 minutes from the Monroeville Mall. I only realized that recently. Oh, really? So it's in Monroeville then? That's cool. Didn't know that. I love you too, Robert. Always good to have you in here, my man. Since his Berman had moxie and probably did okay for a while. Yeah, I could see him fight. He had a fighting chance. I think by the end of it, you can kind of see it on his face. He was kind of coming to the realization, like, okay, maybe there's some legitimacy to this. But I think it may have taken him a little bit to kind of fully grasp what the hell's going on. Chin says I feel like Givens would have just ran frantically into a horde of zombies by mistake. Yeah. Or just tried to like get them on camera to just like boost their ratings. Like, hey, the first live zombie on TV. Like, hey guys, come on. Everybody tune in at 7 o'clock tonight. I could see Dr. Foster ending it on his own terms. And as for Berman, I feel like he would have survived somehow. I could buy that. Yeah, I could totally see Givens like, dude, like we could try to get one of these zombies on TV. We could be the first station in the Philadelphia area to broadcast a live zombie. Let's do it. Yeah, that's a Givens move for sure. Since yes, she's no Marilyn East, Lane Carroll. Nah, I agree with that. Larry says it's in Edgewood, very close to Monroeville. Towns are super close out there. That's right. Yeah, Edgewood's not too far. He wants those zombie supers. Yeah, for sweeps, man. We gotta get a zombie on air for sweeps. We gotta do it. Well, WGON's staying on the air, but I'm hopping the hell out of here. We're over 3 hours in. Sunday night, I gotta get my ass up to work in the morning. So it's been fun. It's been a fun conversation tonight. I'm glad things worked for the most part. I'll still continue to work on that, try to figure out why the hell my connection sucks. But you can catch me next, like I mentioned earlier, this Wednesday on the Revival House Podcast on YouTube. Just type in Revival House Podcast on YouTube. It should pop up. I will be joining the boys at 8 p.m. Central Time, I think. So 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll be doing a fan commentary of Martin. I look forward to doing that. That's this weekend. And then I also want to announce some shows coming up. Saturday, May the 24th, we are officially on the road to Living Dead Weekend, and it's time once again for another Romero Fan Roundtable. And this edition will be the Road to Living Dead Weekend edition. So if you're interested, if you're going to be attending Living Dead Weekend this year, if you want to hop on, join the roundtable, you are more than welcome. Just let me know, shoot me a comment, shoot me an email. However you can get a hold of me, and we'll get you on. So that'll be Saturday, May the 24th for Romero Fan Roundtable number 3, the Road to Living Dead Weekend. And then the following weekend, June 1st, I believe we've agreed on, Larry, if you're still in here. June the 1st, it's going to be on a Sunday. We're going to be doing the Living Dead Weekend preview show, the annual, which is kind of an annual thing now. The Living Dead Weekend preview show, the weekend before Living Dead Weekend. I will have Larry back on the channel, as well as Daz Sargent, two of the key cogs in the wheels that are making this all happen every year at Monroeville Mall. So I'm looking forward to getting those guys on to do the official preview for this year's event. And so join us for that. That's Sunday, June the 1st. So easy to remember. But Steven says, Given's still trying to get those rescue stations on the air. Even if he's being eaten, his last words were staying on the air. That's right. Yeah, he's not giving up. He knows ratings. Synth, always good to see you, my man. Appreciate you hanging out tonight. Bonnie, pleasure as always. Happy Mother's Day to you, Bonnie. I know you hope you had a good one. Hope we ended it on the right note tonight. Hope you had a good time tonight. Steven, pleasure as always, my man. Thanks again. Stezio, good to see you again. Appreciate you stopping in. Ed, always a pleasure, homie. Coming to an end. Good night. Happy Mother's Day. Until next time. Absolutely. Yep. Been fun, Larry. Always good to have Larry in here. Always good to talk to Larry. Chintz, glad you're able to make it. You might want to join the roundtable. Well, if you're going to be Living Dead Weekend, hit me up, man. My email address is in. It's on my page. It's available. So shoot me an email or shoot me a comment down below, whatever you want to do, or send me your email and we'll get it situated. But yeah, definitely welcome. They're saying, okay, that's cool. Perfect, baby. Perfect. My Lunatique 99, always good to see you. Glad you're stopping in. Thanks for hanging out. Robert, always a pleasure, my man. Have a good night. Jeff, good to see you guys. Appreciate all you guys in the chat. It's been a fun one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. But like I said, catch me Wednesday, Revival House Podcast. I'll be there. But until then, you guys have a great rest of the week, a great rest of the night. Stay cool, but stay scared.